Oh, I'm excited then.
Cause I had, to be honest, like a pretty, like mentally and physically, I kind of demanded myself a lot today. So I don't know if you ever feel this, but like the more tired you get, like you have to get more and more relaxed in order to keep going
Yeah.
forward. Like, but I love that because it kind of pushes me to become super comfortable, like in the uncomfortable kind of thing. You get what I'm saying?
Ah, you're manifesting with uncertainty.
Is that what it's called?
Well, there's many different ways you can think about it. It's totally dependent on your perception. It's like some people they need to have a constant flow of things, like time is irrelevant for them. They play with the concept of it is that some people who are very like stringent on time and need to be on time all the time are very punctual. I've been guilty. Sometimes I've been late. I've been being better at being punctual, especially when going for work or if it's like an important friend or meeting. I'll try my best to make it on time as best as I can. But sometimes life just teaches you to go with the flow. And I've just learned to embrace the unknown, even though it's really hard for me to embrace change. And I always struggle with that, especially since childhood was hard for me. And I think as I'm like learning to become my own human, um, I think I'm just learning to just embrace like being more present, trying to suspend judgment, and also being able to interact with humans with like genuine touch and stuff like that, even amongst the scariness of COVID and stuff. So, um, how have you been today? Like, I know I've just been talking, but that's kind of nice that we're gonna have like a chill podcast and see where this goes.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew, but the podcast already started.
No, I knew that.
You knew that?
I'm
How'd
always
you
prepared, dude.
how'd you know it already started?
Because I'm pretty sure you have a clicker or something. I had a friend, she like tested this out on her iPad and she's like, "All right, we're gonna take a picture." And she's like, "Did you know I've already taken like 20?" And then I freaked out and I was like, "Were any of them good?" She says some of them were funny.
Well, you get candid stuff like that, you know? Like right now, like you not knowing that this was already being recorded, like I don't know if it would have made you anxious knowing that it already started, but it kind of just makes for a natural process instead of like, oh, are you ready to start the podcast? Like, nah, we already started.
I like spontaneity. That's something I'm trying to learn to incorporate. So thank you for bringing that to the podcast.
Not a problem. It's the Art of Human podcast, so honest expression, free expression, having fun, being yourself. That's literally all it's been about. And today I spent a lot of time. I work at a restaurant right now, right? And so like at the restaurant, like of course, like I've got a mission, right? I gotta get people their drinks, I gotta get people their food, I gotta, there's a certain rhythm, there's a certain flow going on, right? And like I have to stay like it's like if I'm like working at the restaurant is as if like right if I think of myself just as energy and I think of other humans as just energy, it's like this huge like we're like this we're like a creature, right, that's made out of a bunch of different people and we're all just a part of it. And like without me the thing wouldn't function as well, without the cook the whole thing wouldn't function as well, without the host it wouldn't function as well. But like right now, me just talking to you, it's like I'm really just on my own, right? And I guess in a way, me and you are connected, but it's a much smaller, much more intimate like manifestation that we have going on versus, at the restaurant, it's like literally probably a team of like 40. You know what I'm saying?
I recently learned from an acquaintance of mine, there's this concept about humanism, about each human being interwoven into a web, regardless of race, gender, identity. It's like this concept of like us humans being interwoven. Like, think about like a dream catcher, right? If you had a dream catcher and you see all these webs entangled and everything, each like knot in between the little strings that attach to the next point, it's like you being right now being a busboy, and then you're like working with the cook, and then the cook works with the hostess, and the hostess works with the register. It's like you guys are interwoven into like a community, and that community builds trust and support. And so how do you do the interplay of humans being intertwined, not only just as humans, but their emotional, their psychosocial, and also being able to express their authentic self, especially when they're around others, because you want to suspend judgment, but we're all judging. Everybody's judging. You're probably judging me, I'm judging you, but at the same
Shit,
time,
you're judging me.
no, I'm just saying that.
It's like
But
that.
I mean, that's the whole point of being human, right? We have to learn how to not be biased. And so I'm just saying, like a dream catcher, it's kind of like an interplay of like woven dreams and try to either manifest them into reality or having them as goals and ambitions as part of our life. I think the human goal for most people is having like clarity, happiness, joy, peace, calm, things that your podcast brings. And it's really interesting the people you bring on the podcast, because I always started watching this podcast this year because I was like, I needed something to entertain myself. And I recently started getting into podcasts. And then it was funny because when you randomly connected with me online, I was like, oh, I didn't know someone like did this. And I was like, okay, well, I'd be interested in maybe trying it out and seeing what it's like. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Well, thank you for checking out the podcast and like appreciating it. Cause honestly, like me and you meeting is like a serendipitous thing that happened, which pretty much probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the podcast. Maybe we still would have connected just because for people listening, we connected on LinkedIn. And I don't think the first thing you saw about me was the podcast, right? Did I send you a request or did you send me a request? I actually don't remember.
You sent me a request.
Okay, I
And I
think
think the commonality was our education. And then we had, I think, one shared workplace.
Country Oaks Care Center, right?
Yes. And then we
Yeah, I
also both
think
attended Cal Poly Pomona.
you went there too?
Yes.
Oh shit. Wait, when did you graduate?
2017. And now I'm a grad student studying public health, specific community health education at Western University of Health Sciences. So I'm like super local in the IE area of California. IE, for
Uh
those who don't know, was the Inland Empire.
yeah, we got people from Europe tuning in, so you got to keep letting them know. I'm just kidding. No, I think there's been a few people tuning in from like other places in the world, like not like consistently, but like I could check the stats and there's a few people from like weird like different countries and stuff. Which I kind of have to remind myself of because I always feel like I kind of forget that this is like just going on the internet, you know. But the Western University, that's like in Pomona area too, right? Isn't
Yeah,
it? Like
it's
off
off
a
of
Holt?
Second Street.
Is that
Yeah,
off a
it's
Holt?
south of Holt.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I've been around there. Um, yeah. Anyways, I kind of want to keep going on this, but like I know we met on LinkedIn. Apparently, I had connected with you, and then I think that you had what was it like? I think you messaged me first.
Hmm.
Or did you comment on like something I posted? I don't even remember. I'm just trying to get the rap because I think it's kind of interesting to talk about how we led to this exact moment.
Hmm.
So what was it? So like, did I post something and then you commented, or what was it?
I think
Or
you
no,
had
you messaged me. I think you messaged me.
Okay, so may I explain?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think what it was is I had seen something on your post on the feed of LinkedIn or whatever, because it's a professional like feed or whatever. And I was curious about it. And I think I watched like a little, I think you have like a snippet or something, like a preview of the video. So like I watched the video and it was interesting to me. And I was like, huh, I didn't know he did this kind of work. And to me, it's not podcast. I mean, you should kind of update your profile to be like storyteller kind of now. So I know it's like a big step, but I mean, if you think about it, being a storyteller is having the relation between someone's past, present, and future, but also it's the art of getting the perceptions of other people's views and perspectives, whether they align with yours or not. And I think that's the interesting thing about us humans is we all have different opinions, perspectives, and life experiences that culminate to the essence of being human. And your podcast, which is the art of being human, I'm kind of interested to see about more interesting people you bring along through this. And if you think about it, with each like episode that you do, you're already interweaving a web of humanism. And that's something that like my university has. They have some values about like science, caring, humanism. But I joined this podcast because I was thinking like, well, there's so many facets of being a human, and you never know what kind of people and perspectives can bring. So I'm really excited to see what kind of future projects you'll have, and I'm really excited to see like what other people out there are like tuning in.
Yeah. And I mean, the beautiful part about it exactly at this moment is the conversation that we're having right now. Because as you're talking about perspectives and as you're talking about the podcast and storytelling, like just us talking right in this exact moment is us living that exactly. I kind of want to just take it over, talk a little bit about you, get some perspective from you. So it's a pretty simple question, but I kind of like it because it's not complicated. But what makes you happy?
I think for me, what makes me happy has been kind of a stifled journey for me. Honestly, I've gone through so much like vulnerability in my past life. I think being able to embrace my vulnerability as a strength, but also to find things that bring me joy, whether it be like spending time with family and friends or being able to release out like negative energy through exercise. I don't think happiness can really be defined as one emotion. I think it's like me embracing, I think, gratitude. Like this year has really challenged me to be grateful for like the little small things in life. And I think that's what has made me happy this year, and really reflecting on who I connect with and how I connect with them, but it's not the way I say it, but it's like how I say it, my tone of voice. When I work with people in healthcare, right now I'm a humble clinical nurse partner, which is basically like a certified nursing assistant. And I've also worked as like a physical therapy aide too. But you realize when you're working with people, they have like a burst of emotions, anywhere ranging from happy
Mm,
to anything being like very sad.
mm,
So, in terms of that, I feel that it's really important to kind of make the best of being present in the moment. And I think for me, learning to really be present, embracing gratitude has really what's been able to relight my own soul and be able to reflect my own energy that I give off and also receive the energies of other people too. And not to be an empath, to be cognizant of factors of people who would deter from my own happiness, so that way I can like uplift my spirit and also elevate people. I think through the course of my journey for the like last many years, I think I'm starting to realize that one day I would like to become a people builder and possibly mentor people and also be mentored too. So I'm always looking forward to those opportunities, but more importantly, I think it's really important to just live life as best as I can.
mm. And one of the key things that you said is like pretty much being grateful, having gratitude for what you have. I feel like that's something that you hear pretty often, and people who are motivational speakers or people who are happy or people, people who are influencers, that's like a pretty common thing to be grateful. But I think, from my own experience, like when I wasn't taking the actual time to take care of myself, I would try to be grateful, but I felt like it never really worked. It wasn't until I really slowed down my life that I understood what it meant to be grateful, which for me was to basically just not want anything, like, not want anything more, but just appreciate maybe the things that I have right now or the things that I've always had, aka my parents, like you were saying. So for my questions, like, how is it that you were able to get that? How is it that you've been able to be more grateful for what you've already had? Like, what's that process like? Because I know it's kind of challenging sometimes.
It's been like a dark night of the soul. It's been a very grueling process. Honestly, I feel like it's taken me probably like more than a decade from being someone who really didn't really know how to tap into their emotions properly in a healthy way. I feel like I've learned to embrace being able to express myself better, especially as an adult. And I think now with this, like amongst this pandemic, a lot of children I've seen, and even a lot of adults, it's taken their toll. And I think, in essence, the way to really like bring it out is for me, it's been like different things. I've tried like meditation. I've done different types of workouts. For me, it's been like journaling. Sometimes it's just like simple, like bullet journaling. Other times it's just like literally just sitting and staring at nature and just embracing the stillness of life. And not only just being an observer, but more of like engaging with it more. And as I've realized this, I feel like it's been kind of eye opening to just have a moment and just really embrace as you are in this moment and not to take it for granted. I feel like many of us take it for granted where we are at right now. I'm pretty sure you're chilling at home. I'm chilling at home too. I'm in like this nice comfy chair. I have some pillows behind me, but I think it's just nice to be able to feel that I don't have to prove anything anymore, that I can just be comfortable as myself and I don't have to put like on a persona. I can just be me.
And like you're saying that like you can be yourself, like what, so I'm guessing if you said that like at one point you were trying to prove something, like what were those people or who were those things that you were trying to prove yourself to? And like how did you liberate yourself from having to try to do that, like mentally?
Mentally, it was actually really hard. I feel like it was, like growing up, you feel the pressure of like trying to get good grades, get into good college, trying to find good jobs, trying to mingle with the right type of people. I think I had to learn that I just needed to navigate my own way of doing things, which may not be the right way, but it was my way. It was my way of being able to be comfortable in my own skin, which is something that's really hard to do, especially because I'm an introvert. It may not seem like it as we have this conversation,
I'm the same
but
way.
um, but definitely, I think this is definitely a challenge. Even like being able to come on this podcast and just being able to have people just view me and see what I have to say, or maybe if they don't like what I have to say, I'm okay with that too. I mean, the ball is in their court, and I'm just excited to just have a cool conversation.
um just to go like a little more specific regarding the last question I asked you, had your parents ever been a part of the reason like why you felt you had to prove something? I know you mentioned like good grades and things like that. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people could relate to, is like their parents' opinions. Like even for me, for example, like, I went to college, I got my degree in nutrition, and then now like I'm not really in my field of nutrition. I'm working at a restaurant as a busser, right? Which really you don't need much of a resume to probably get the job. But this, without like giving too much detail, because I could spend a whole hour talking about it, like this just so happens to feel exactly right for me in this moment. Like not just the whole buster thing, but me being here at home with my mom, me just spending a lot of time with my parents, me doing this podcast and all these different things. But one of the biggest struggles for me was getting like honest, and I know it was insincere and it was in a like they were looking out for me, but I've gotten criticism from my parents at certain points, or from close family, about like, hey, like you got your degree in nutrition, like, shouldn't you go finish your RD internship and become a dietitian? Like, what I'm saying? Like, they're like, what are you doing, kind of thing. And like, that's probably been one of the toughest parts about me staying true to my path. So I'm just curious if you've had an experience like that where your parents kind of played a role, where it kind of like really made you feel like, where it really made it difficult to continue your path. I'm just curious.
I think it has made it a little bit difficult, but I'm also realizing they've been supportive. I feel like I've gone through like so much failure. As like I had discussed with you, we had like one or two phone conversations before we did this podcast, and I told you about like my academic struggles and realizing my bachelor's is in kinesiology, exercise science. So we come from like a similar cut path. Nutrition and exercise go hand in hand. And, I thought I was going to be a clinician. I thought I was going to go into, physical therapy school or PA school or nursing school. And, I applied to the schools and I kept getting rejected. And then I had to really reevaluate like where I wanted to be and really think with more of my emotions and feelings and take a chance in seeing if public health or something, give it one last shot if I was meant to be in healthcare or if I should pursue something that had nothing to do with my like pre-med, pre-science like background, you know? And I put a lot of effort into it. Like I had started volunteering at hospitals since I was in high school. And now as I reflect on it, it was kind of like a zigzag journey, like I had previously gotten into a physical therapy program, but then I was unfortunately dismissed because I wasn't able to pass one certain course and I was only like 1 point away. But I let it go and I let it to be like the universe or God's hands or whatever you believe in, that it was probably like fate or destiny, that maybe there's just a better path for me that was better suited for my abilities. And I think realizing and letting go of the pressures of some family ideals of thinking of this construct of who I thought I was going to become and letting it go to who I now am I meant to be. So that's my answer to your question, hopefully.
Mm, I like your answer. You happen to have mentioned something about God or faith. Uh, I'm curious to know in your life, if you have faith or if you do have faith, like what is it in and like how is it that it helps you and how important you feel that like faith is just for like everyday people.
Well, for me, I was raised in a Roman Catholic household, so I was raised up Catholic. But basically, I think for me, there was a time when I went away from the church for like 4 years. I just didn't go to mass. I just stopped. I was just questioning my spirituality at the time. And I was just looking into other things that gave me peace. And, family was kind of against it at the time. They probably don't even recall this. Even if they see this podcast, they'll be like, what is she talking about? But anyway, I remember this was like in my early 20s when I was just trying to figure out who I was, who I'm becoming, what I want to be, just reevaluating like things that I was raised to believe in childhood, like the upbringing, the culture belief systems that we all have. And many of us either go away from it or we stick with it, or we have this like interplay of like we do like half and half. We have like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then we kind of sprinkle it with something else. I don't know. But I think for me, it was kind of an eye opener to come back to my roots and see like how important faith is for me to keep me grounded and calm. And I'm not saying that you don't need to have necessary religion or believe in something. I mean, if you think of spirituality as something greater than oneself, and I've even taught like this to my students when I used to teach, is that the psychosocial aspects of human spirituality can take on so many forms, and you have to think about it as a self awareness of a higher consciousness about not only what you say and do, but how you see it through a different lens, or how someone else sees it from a different lens than from your own. And I felt that when I had gone through this, I guess what you call like a metamorphosis, that really reignited why I decided to come back to the faith. But it also questioned and challenged some of the things that are also wrong too with my faith as well. I mean, people probably watch this podcast are like, oh my gosh, like how can she say all of this? But at the same time, some people are like, I wonder what made her think that way. But it's something that I constantly reflect on. And you can ask anybody of any, you know, big religion, I'm pretty sure everyone has questioned the way they were raised or what they did, or even like why they're even here, the essence of why are we here? That's like always people's big question. But that can't really always be summed up very easily in terms of faith, spirituality.
Damn. I feel like your answers are so like it's like a symphony of like different ideas and then it all kind of comes together.
I try
But no,
to.
you make a lot of good points and like you bring up a lot of great things. Um like I also think like the idea of spirituality is like you mentioned self-awareness. Like I do feel like it's kind of at the end of the day self-awareness. Cuz like you were born into, you said, the Roman Catholic Church. So was I, right? My parents were also Catholic, did my first communion and all that. But for me, like you said that at one point you kind of took some time away from that, or you kind of stepped back from it, or whatever that was. But like I kind of had a similar thing because for me personally, I never really felt that confident in this like faith. Like I had gone to church and I like, did the things with my parents and like I learned some of the prayers, but I had never really felt like, man, I have like a real faith. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like when you have genuine faith, which I feel like I'm starting to develop now, like it's like an actual, like it's an empowering feeling of like kind of comfort and like feeling like you're connected to something bigger, which like it makes me feel like really comfortable, really strong, and like, wow, like it's not just me, like you said, like something bigger than yourself. But I never felt that while I was just kind of following the religion that I was born into. Like I don't know why, I just none of it really gave me like confidence. I didn't feel like not denying anything about like Jesus Christ and like all these ideas that the Roman Catholic Church teaches you, like, because I don't know, maybe everything they're saying could be true, but for whatever reason, I never made that connection with it. So I kind of feel like I do feel like spirituality, at least for me, is like creating faith, but out of something that you really, really, really believe in. Like, so if you happen to be born into a religion and like you just love it, then like that's awesome that worked out. But maybe for some people like me, like they were born into a religion, but it just never felt like that strong connection. So I think it's just going on your path and then I don't know, hopefully maybe not everybody develops some type of faith, but maybe I think most people can if you kind of just look deep inside yourself and question your thoughts and just really come to the idea of like what's significant in this life, because you can be thinking about the next job, you can be thinking about school, you can be thinking about relationships with girls or guys, or there's all these different ideas. But like for me, what's helped me develop my faith is like questioning like the most bare minimum thing, like what actually matters. And I think for me, like it comes down to the idea of just like, it's like that, I guess corny. I don't know. Hopefully that word's right, but it's like the idea of love. Like
Mhm.
that's for me what it always just comes down to, whether it's self love or whether it's just appreciating the I'm looking at my fan right now on my roof. I can just stare at it and I can appreciate it for the dynamic of it and like how it's able to blow wind into the entire room. Or I could look at the light and think about how the photons, I think, is that what they're called? Hopefully that's what they're
Futon? Is that what
uh-huh.
is that what you're trying to say?
Like the light particles, how do you call that?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay, well, light particles, like what I'm saying, like there's always beauty in everything and anything. Like you can make beauty out of anything that you look at. So that's kind of like where I got to. And then I mean I could talk about my whole like faith thing forever, but I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like,
I feel like it's definitely a mixture, especially because a lot of people were also never raised with the faith. I remember growing up as a kid, some people just were never taught to believe in a certain construct of religion or a certain way of living. I think the essence that most people have is to be a good person, to do good in the world. And I think that's a commonality that people try to become, or at least strive to do. I mean, do we all do it? No, we try, but I mean, we just do, like I said, we just literally have to do the most good for the most number of people and, try to be happy. And I really like what you said about reflecting on love, how it's a very like all-encompassing emotion. And I feel that a lot of people, especially during this time, have either been lacking it, embracing it, or questioning how they're relaying it into their own lives and how they really want to seek it out or how they want to be able to receive it too. And it's funny because when I interact with different people, like on a weekly basis, I can like kind of tell the person what kind of state they're in, not only just they're angry or if they're happy go lucky, but also on the way they were raised. I think most people have been raised with fear, especially in this society. We are taught to fear things rather than to love people. I mean, I've talked with childhood friends, like the typical like stringent rules of like parents like, disciplining their children. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think you need to do it in a healthy way that is more loving and caring compared to it being abusive and being it manipulative and all these negative emotions and connotations that can actually harm the child and give ACEs or adverse childhood experiences, which can lead to debilitating effects into their adult lives. So I think there definitely needs to be more love in this world, but I think love over fear and also having faith and fortitude is also what's important too in life.
Dude, I think the thing that attracted me about what you said was you said fear. I feel like that's like a big that's like a big like important topic of conversation, the idea of like fear, because I feel like it does play like such a huge role, like in the way that everybody operates. Like my dad, legit, like I was with him the other day. My dad's did like 21 years in the Marines, and he told me something like, I forgot what he said. He said something like, you know what, Christian, like the thing that runs like this whole world is like based on fear. Like that's like one of the most motivating things in the world. Like, like you could look at it from a super intensive standpoint, like, oh, like the fear of like, if I had a gun to your head, like give me all the money you have or something. Like obviously that's like a super high level, but there could also be the fear of being at a job that you've been at for maybe like a few years and you've been promoted like 3 times and you have pretty steady income, but you don't like the job. And like, so you have the fear that if you leave, like everything's gonna go to shit, but you really, really want to, and you really, really know that if you left, you'd be super happy. Or it could be the same exact example for someone in a relationship. They've been in a relationship for a few years, like they like this person, maybe they do love this person, but they don't want to be with this person, but they're fearful that if they let go of this person, that maybe they'll never, like, it's like a level of security that they're going to lose. Like, oh, what if I never find somebody else again? Or like I'm gonna have to go back to dating, which I haven't done in forever. Like the whole idea of fear, like from a super exaggerated point, like someone having a gun to your head, or just having fear in the sense of like deviating from what you're comfortable with. Like I think they're both like super, super, like it's very bad. Like especially, I mean, you
Are
could
you
think
saying
about
that
like,
people are getting into like complacency or people are, I mean, we're creatures of habit. We're
yeah,
humans, we love routine. And when something shakes up our routine, we don't like what's happening. And so I think that's all part of like adapting to change. I mean, people say adapt or die or adapt and survive, but at the same time, we just have to find healthier ways to do it. And I think a lot of people have been doing the best they can in terms of like their overall well being. I mean, we see so many things happening in this world. And the only thing I think I have been praying for is people to find peace in their heart, happiness in their soul, and to be able to have more of a smile on their face.
Mhm. Do you feel like in your life, have you noticed like the more love that you have for yourself, does it like, do you see it projecting upon other people as well?
Yes and no. Sometimes people don't like the positive Pam in their life.
Like
Sometimes
they don't
people
like
like
the
the
positiveness?
Some people don't because some people want also to be real and authentic. I mean, if you're always positive all the time, then how are you going to be able to tap into those emotions that you also feel? Anxiety, worry, guilt. I mean, there's so many spectrums of emotions that humans face. I think it's healthy once in a while to do that. One of my mentors told me that we all have like an emotional cup that we fill, right? And when that cup is filled, it kind of overflows, and that's kind of your time to like decompress, have a little bit of introspection of oneself, to know thyself, and to be able to understand what has happened and what's been processed. And sometimes that process takes time. For some people, they do it instantaneously. Other people, it takes time. It may take, months, weeks, years. Other people, it just is a matter of a life circumstance that's what's altered their reality.
For you, what is it that you do when you feel like your glass is full?
It
Like
depends,
I know you
actually.
mentioned I know you mentioned meditation earlier. Like, is there like, do you journal? Do you meditate?
I
Like, do you have
journal,
something
yeah.
common that you go to?
I do journal. I do like a gratitude journal. Sometimes it'll be me writing poetry. Maybe I'll share some later in the podcast. But I feel that that's something like spoken word has been one of my outlets that I've had. Sometimes it's playing music, tinkering with the piano. I've told you about that. Sometimes I think being able to feel the music and how the vibrations and the frequencies can help me feel more elevated, more happy, and joyful has been something that I've recently learned. And to have going back to like my childhood, having that childlike sense of wonder, that curiosity, I think that's something that I reignited within myself within like the last 1 to 2 years, because I realized that I needed to have peace within my heart that things don't need to be serious all the time. It's okay to have fun. And it's okay to be able to just be able to have like childlike wonder, like go climb a tree, which I sort of did that like last summer, and it was actually kind of fun. And I thought about it, and I was like, when was the last time I did that? Probably like when I was 5, and I did it again as an adult. I was like, oh, this is like kind of being able to trust my senses, but not only be able to trust like your mental senses, but also your physical senses. And when you trust both your physical and your spiritual, kind of like be able to intertwine with your true and whole self. What I mean by like a whole self is means it's like you're not half of a person, you're not feeling empty on the inside and then physically showing you're happy. It's more of being able to encompass all of yourself and being able to feel happy both within and then also with like on the outside as well. And I know that many people struggle with that. And I see that maybe from a medical perspective, but even on my everyday life, when I'm going and like passing the mail in the mailbox, you know, you can really see someone's attitude about life and how they approach things. Are they like mopey and sad? Are they resentful of the things that they've gone through? Or do they persevere and they say, you know what, just because a bad experience happened to me doesn't mean I have to have those same negative, toxic emotions and execute those like negativity on other people. Maybe I want to decide to change that and change the way I behave so that way I can be able to support and elevate other people too and help them become a better version of themselves.
Hmm, I agree. I feel that you've definitely thought about this whole life thing, huh?
There's too much to
Like
think
there,
about.
like the depth of your answers and your thoughtfulness. I'm just like, damn, Lauren's for sure just like you've thought about life quite a bit. Like,
I think too much about life.
you think too much about life?
I think I've had too much time to think. I've been told by friends I can be sometimes be a little bit philosophical, or I tend to overthink things instead of being able to feel. I had an acquaintance or friend of mine tell me that I need to think not only just with my mind, but also with my heart center. And so I'm learning about that. I'm like, okay, what does he mean by heart center? What does people mean when you have to embrace emotions? And I think sometimes we learn how to like switch our emotions off. You know, when we're thinking logical, if we're trying to like get through something, you're like, okay, I don't care how I get it done. I just need to get it done and just push through. But sometimes you don't want to push through. Sometimes you just want to like take a step back. I remember you told me over one of our phone conversations when you were training for your cross country season, you were pushing your past your mental and physical limitations, and you were saying like, man, I don't know if I even want to run this anymore. I was like elevating my team. I think you told me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you were like the captain or something and you were trying to like push through and go through all these like hurdles and then also juggle school and your academics. And then also you're questioning about like how these like RSIs, repetitive stress injuries were like affecting you not only on a mental level but on a physical level. You're like, can I do this? What can I do to like make myself feel better? I guess that's what I interpret it as. I mean, you could totally tell me how you feel.
Yeah, pretty much what you said was right. I had like a lot of things on my plate. Uh, like, from trying to be like frugal with my resources, like, not trying to eat out too much, and like, making my own food and making my own food for dinner, but then making enough for the next morning to take to school, and like packing and trying to pack enough lunch for the whole day, and then training in the morning, trying to make, class schedule work with practice and races and family and homework, and still trying to have some degree of social life. Like, yeah, I'm not like, I really do think that there's a like, I can think about college and in a lot of ways it congested my body and it kind of compressed my body, literally, like physically speaking, and like mentally speaking. I think it also caused some mental issues, but I don't regret it, and I don't like think to myself like, man, if I could only go back in time and like redo the whole college thing. Like, I don't think like that either, because I also believe that you can make any negative or any hardship into something very beautiful, the same way that, that you have a fire, right? Like, let's say a whole mountain goes on fire, and immediately it's like, man, that's bad news. Like, maybe some houses caught on fire, and maybe like some animals died as well. But I also know that from fire burning things down, it usually like fertiles the soil, and then a lot of things grow after they've been destroyed. And so in that kind of metaphor, analogy, comparison, like comparing my life to fire, like that's kind of the way I see my college experience. Like, I feel like I definitely like fucked up my body and my mind pretty bad, but I'm gaining a lot of wisdom having to recuperate myself from all that. And along with that, like, I have this podcast where I'm kind of giving a narrative to my story, which, maybe it inspires some people, or maybe it's just therapy for myself and it never really inspires very many people. But like, and I don't even need to say that because it has inspired a few people. Like, I mean, you're on the podcast in a way because you've seen some of the content.
I never
And
thought I would be on a podcast. This is like one of the most courageous things I've done. I think like this is only like my second maybe YouTube video I've ever done, maybe third, I don't know.
yeah, and like for me that's so beautiful. Like, for me to have, and not even like, I take very minimal credit in anything that I do. I think it's like I did 1% out of the 99. Like, the other 99 was just what I call subconscious serendipity, which is pretty much like everything just kind of serendipitously led to this exact moment. I take like that 1% credit. because I appreciate my own efforts as well. But like even if it's just me being able to have someone like you who I converse with, and we have this like opportunity to just talk for an hour or however long, like for me that means a lot. And for me, it's like this is the essence of everything. It's not me getting the YouTube page to like a million subscribers, or me getting the like having like a million people listen to the podcast. Like if that was truly my objective, like my ultimate objective, I don't think I would be happy. And I catch myself having those thoughts where I just, oh man, like, at first I try to market the podcast like a lot, a lot, a lot. But it's like, wait, like I don't really feel like doing that right now. I just feel like focusing on the process, and whenever the moment feels right that like I really want to maybe push it more to market it,
Mhm.
like it'll come natural to me. Because if I'm trying to do it artificially, then it's like I'm not actually living. Like I'm trying to fulfill an idea that somebody else created, but it's not truly what I want. Like what I want right now is just to have these podcasts and to like be able to talk and just fucking chill. And that's kind of it, that's kind of it. And then as I get better at typing, as I get better at, once I understand YouTube better and like all this technological shit, because I'm not that tech savvy, but now I'm getting more into it. Like,
It's okay. I'm learning with you.
yeah, exactly. Like, once this becomes like second nature, like this whole tech stuff, like, yeah, sure, maybe in like a few years, like I'm gonna be marketing quite a bit, but right now it's just about this. So
Well, I'm happy for you. And honestly, I think it's kind of cool. A lot of people are starting podcasts in this pandemic because honestly, people want to listen to something that challenges their brain. It stimulates them to think in a different way. I mean, I sometimes listen to podcasts of like Deepak Chopra. I've done things about that comedian Tiffany Haddish. I read her book, The Last Black Unicorn, and it was funny because I remember earlier in the pandemic, I was like, you know what? I just need a really good laugh. Let me just read books by comedians. So I was reading things by like Richard Pryor and like Tiffany Haddish and Jim Carrey and just different stuff about like their funny tragedies of their life. I mean, the tragedies that they've had in their real life are actually very sad, but I love how they reframe with humor and how they try to make light of situations, even the most serious stuff.
mhm.
And it kind of puts it in perspective of making sure that I always have that interplay of being light and playful in my own life. And I think that's really important because we all lose that innate ability to be lighthearted and to be childlike. I mean, everyone says like you can be a big kid at heart, but how many of us actually act on it?
That's very true. And I don't know if tell me if you feel like this, but I feel like it's this whole like idea that like you get older, you got bills, you get married, you have kids, you get a degree, you like settle down. Like it's this whole idea that like, I don't know, it's just this whole idea that like, oh shit, well like now reality is like, I don't know if you have this, but like I hang out with people and like one of the first questions like, oh, what do you work like, what do you work as, or like what's your work, or like how's work going? And I'm like, how about like, and I'm not complaining about it because this is just the reality of the society that we live in. But it's like for me, it's like, how are you doing? Like, how are you feeling? And then like I'll go the conversation from there, because like it's always talking about like work, like, oh, what do you work as? What do you do? Like it's just like, don't get like, that's what I'm saying. I'm not judging that perspective, but I'm just acknowledging that that's what I've experienced, that that's a very common thing to like try to get to know somebody, is like getting to know what they work as. Which, don't get me wrong, like it makes sense because it could tell you a lot about the person, but at the same time it's like, is work really, like, I know it's like I don't even like the word work. Like when I
I
go
think
to
it's
the
because our society places work and workaholic and workaholism and being able to strive to be the best all the time, 110% or 120 or whatever number you want to put on it, infinity, whatever. The essence or the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes we really need to sit back and also adopt some things from other cultures and be able to embrace life more. I mean, people have literally suffered and died from burnout, not only just this year, but in previous years. I mean, I myself have experienced burnout. People I've known in my life have done it too. But I feel like our emotions, one thing I wanted to add to this podcast is how our emotions also can cause physical ailments. And it's something that I've read through like doctors who have done research on this. And there's been like numerous studies and stuff like that. But literally, like you said, I loved what you mentioned. How are you feeling? A lot of times people don't ask that. I mean, a lot of women who are going through pregnancy, a very few times, other than maybe a compassionate nurse or a doctor or a caregiver, whoever is taking care of the mom, like they never ask them, how are you doing? But it's not just during the pregnancy and after the baby's born, but also sometimes even years after while they're raising the kid, whether it's a single mom, dad, people who are non binary couples, or I actually don't know the term. Sorry, I apologize if I offend anyone. Um, but people who raise their families and the guardians and stuff like that, kids who are adopted, I feel like a lot of times we forget to have that compassion, that empathy. I think people lack love, affection, gratitude, and being able to connect, having that genuine connection, like how we are connecting, through this conversation. I never thought I'd have this cool conversation of being able to talk about the deep realms of life, but I know this isn't the only conversation. This conversation could have gone into like a billion different ways. We just don't know. But I think that it's super important to acknowledge where we're at right now. We can't, like you said, we cannot change your past. When you mentioned, like, if there were things I wish I had done differently in college, I don't think I would have changed a single thing. We can't really change our past. And I think that's why the present is truly a gift, because we just have to live in the now. We cannot worry about our future. I know when I was a kid, I used to be a worry wart. And funny story, I don't think anyone probably remembers this, maybe my mom, but mostly me. I remember having such bad anxiety one day as a kid that I couldn't even do my homework or anything. And my grade school teacher wanted to teach me to be more present. And she knew I liked food because I'm a foodie. So she told me for my homework assignment for the next 3 days is all you're going to do instead of doing your math homework, your arithmetic, your spelling. Write down all the food you're eating throughout the day, and then I want you to turn that into me. And it was like such a hard assignment because it made me realize I had at like such a young age like crippling anxiety about my future. And it was weird as a kid. You're like, why am I worried about these things? Is it because of imposter syndrome? You have peer pressure because you're comparing the kid who had like the new sneakers or the kid who got like a better grade than you on a math test or whatever. And I reflected on it and I was like, I don't need to be the best. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room, but I hope I can live this earth as being the happiest person that I can be and to the best of my own ability, regardless of what other people say or feel or act.
Dude. No, I could agree so much. And the way that you said that, as how old were you when you said that this happened? That your teacher told you to
I
change the
think I was
assignment?
like 9 or 10.
Like, think about it. You were literally 9 or 10 and you were already preoccupied about your future and you were already kind of anxious about it. But like, you were only 8 or 9. Like, you were thinking that way not so much because of you, but it was an idea that was presented to you to think that you had to be that thoughtful about your future. At least that's the way I see it. Cause it's like, dude, how can you be 8 or 9 and be anxious about your future? Like, as a kid, I feel like that's the ultimate, like, just enjoy what's in your face. But like, the way that school is, like, it's like a fucking, like, I don't know how you feel about cursing, but uh,
Okay. Express your emotion. I don't mind. It
Okay.
makes the podcast pretty interesting, in my opinion. It's pretty funny.
Okay, I don't know you too much on a personal level, but yeah, I'll just do it. But like, dude, you're 8 or 9 and you're already concerned about that. And like it's not even just you. Like I know this is like the truth for a lot of people. But like think about school and like legit. And we're talking about like here in the United States, right? Like you're in kindergarten, which you're only 4 or 5. Like you show up to this like facility, and I'm not trying to like super paint like a bad picture, but it's just one perspective. Like you come to this place and like you go in a room and like you spend a few hours, and then you go to another room, you spend a few hours, and then you go to another room, and then you spend a few hours, and then like you want to go to you want to go to the bathroom, like you gotta like flip your card or some shit. Like I don't know if you had that like in school where you had like a card, and
Oh
there was like
yeah,
a
I
color
remember
on it,
that. Or we had like a
depending.
key or a stick or something.
Yeah, and like depending on your behavior, like literally in middle school, I think I might have mentioned this. I did mention this on a podcast in first grade, and I'm telling you, like, I'm not saying this with like ego, but like I'm pretty a nice kid. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in first grade, like I'm a pretty nice kid. I don't know what happened, but my card, instead of being green, which is like 100% like perfect or whatever, like you've done nothing wrong, like my card was like at a red, which is just like the most minimal of like bad that you can be. And my card was on red for I don't even remember what reason. And then like I had to go to the bathroom. Like I had to really, really pee, and my teacher was like, yo, like, your card is on red, so you can't go pee. Like, you have to wait until the bell rings. And she's like, there's only 10 minutes left, something like that. I'm a fucking kid, so obviously, like, this is this grown woman telling me this, and supposedly I'm on the red card mode. So then, like, obviously, I didn't have the confidence to be like, no, I'm going to the bathroom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't a kid like that. Like, if an adult told me something, like, I was generally pretty respectful about it. So but it got to the point where I had to go to the bathroom. So instead of running out the door, I literally went to the corner of the room, which is the opposite side, which is where the water fountain's at. And I literally I stood there and I pissed myself and literally made like a huge puddle. And like by some miracle, nobody notices the whole thing happened. And then I walk back to my desk, which is on the opposite side. And according to my memory, nobody ever found out. But it's like obviously somebody was like, "Yo, like what's this over here?" And then obviously somebody had to eventually clean it up, and my pants were wet. Like,
I have such a funny story because you
hold
said
on, could I
yours
finish
was
this?
bad.
Can I finish this real quick? Just my last
Go
point.
ahead.
Like the reason I bring that all up is because it's like, dude, like going from one room to the next, spending hours in one room to the next, and like having to follow all these rules. And then, oh, you can't go to the bathroom because you did one wrong thing. And then it leads to the point where I literally piss myself. Like, that's literally me not trusting my feelings. Like, I have to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. Now, all of a sudden, somebody tells me, oh, no, you can't go to the bathroom. Like, that's making me like that's where that whole loss of conscientiousness or being in touch with your emotions and your body, like that's where it all starts. Like that's where it started for me. Like when people put all of these rules and people tell you that you can't do this, and especially at such a young age, like first grade, are you for real? Like you're a little kid. Like I'm being so serious. Like I just feel like the whole school system, like again, I'm not saying that it's all bad, but I
No,
feel
but
like there's a much
it
better
teaches
way to be
you
about it.
it teaches you unhealthy behaviors, and I agree. I remember I was so nervous. I had to give like a oral book report, when you like read a book and then you have to like talk in front of the class. And I was always like a worrywart kid, I'm not gonna lie. And I mean, it's transited into my adulthood, and I've just learned to have much healthier coping mechanisms. And I did a report. What was the book? Oh yeah, that's right. I think it was on like Ralph S. Mouse or something. It was like the mouse like rode a motorcycle or whatever, and he's like friends with this kid. Anyway, long story. I'm pretty sure you can like Google the book or whatever, but it was a children's book. And so I was giving a report, and I was like literally so nervous that I struggled with like public speaking and my presentations. that as an adult, I had to rectify it by actually taking a public speaking course at Cal Poly Pomona because I need to get over that fear. Again, going back to the fear. But going back to my childhood again, this all, has a point. Um, it was funny because like people made fun of me because I peed and they were like, "Oh my god, Lauren, like why'd you pee in front of the class? Like, oh my goodness, like it stinks and you have to like clean it up." And like literally the teacher just excused me for the rest of the day and
Oh wait, so wait, just to get
my
this.
mom had to get me a change of clothes
So you're saying that you
and
peed
she was
yourself?
like she felt so sorry for me and the teacher was like, "You're going to present again, but this time you're going to do it with confidence." And I was like, God bless that teacher. I don't know what I would do without her, but it's funny because people who know me as an adult, they've never ever seen me be afraid of public speaking. I think the largest crowd I've ever spoken to has been like 500 or 1,000 people in college. And I think I challenged myself as an adult to not let fear from childhood transcend to my adulthood, to just conquer it and to be able to be fearless and to be able to have more sense of security in myself.
Just to get this story on full wrap. So you had a presentation in your class, and you got so nervous that you peed yourself, and then you had to
Yes.
repeat it. You had to repeat it a second time.
Yeah. She made me, but this time, the second time around, I didn't pee. It was the first time that was like really nerve-wracking for me because I knew I didn't want to present. I mean, people don't think I'm an introvert, but I really am. I think I've been influenced by people who are more extroverted through, adulthood, and I think I've overcome that by having some of them rub off on me. But to my essence and core, like when I'm stressed out, a lot of times I just like to be by myself in a quiet room, or I'll go on a walk and I'll literally try to like be off the grid, I guess, or try as much as I can to disconnect from technology, shut off my cell phone, shut off my laptop, turn off like notifications, and just be in touch with how I just want to be. And I think that's been able to calm me down for the time being. I mean, this course, this could change as I evolve and grow as a human, but who knows, maybe I'll find like playing piano again or being able to rekindle some other things that can help me just be able to feel like that unique spirit and to raise my vibrational frequencies, but also to lower them if I'm ever feeling like tense, anxious, or like high strung.
Hmm. Um, how much time do you spend alone? Like on average, like, because I could very easily tell you. So, like, I want to know for you, like, how much time do you spend alone, and like, do you feel like you need more? Do you feel like I just want like how much time do you spend alone?
If I had to carve out a time period, I feel like sometimes it's not enough. I feel like maybe I spend anywhere ranging from, it could be as small as like half an hour
In the
to
whole
as
day?
much as in a whole day, yeah. But sometimes as much as 10 hours if I wanted to. Like, let's say if I'm not studying, I don't have work, or I just don't have anything to do that day, no errands or whatever, whatnot, life stuff. Sometimes I'll just try to just have a chill day, which I know in my young life I can have that. I don't have like big responsibilities like normal people who have families and kids, and they're like, oh, she's so lucky. But even parents, they too need to have like time. I remember one of my previous jobs being a behavior therapist for children with autism. I had to counsel a parent who was stressed out because her child with autism was struggling in school and she didn't know how to cope. And I said, like, why don't you just like something simple like go inside the bathroom and do some breathing exercises when your kid is like not banging on the door or having a fit or having elopement issues. Elopement in play-based therapy means like they're always trying to like escape the room or escape their settings instead of like trying to be present and trying to like focus and be like or with you and stuff. But um, I, it's really funny because people forget to take care of themselves. I think most people, I would like to say, are givers, but it's really hard for them to give to themselves. And I feel like to touch point on your like self-love, a lot of people have been lacking that because who is your own best friend? You, yourself. And if you don't love yourself for the ride or die, like how can you be able to have healthy relationships with other people and to be able to connect with other like friendly human souls?
Very true. 100%. No, no, I agree. I am a big advocate of self-love because I didn't really love myself like over a year ago. Like when I was in school and before that, like I didn't really know what self-love was. I heard the idea, didn't really know what it was. But like now I know what it means for me at least, you know? Um I want to dig a little more though, like, and the reason I bring this up is because for me it's like a big thing. Like I asked you like how much time you spend alone. You said 30 minutes someday, but then some days up to 10 hours. Actually, when you do those 10 hours, like what is that? I want to know. Like
I
what
mean, I'll
is those
take like
10 hours
little
like?
breaks to like eat and stuff. And like, I mean, I've been blessed that I have been a homebody. I'm extremely grateful that I do still live with family. And so, yes, I have, I'm not like really completely alone, but I mean, I try to make time for myself and try to create a space, whether it's walking in my neighborhood, time alone, or it's just being in my bedroom and just writing something or just being able to like listen to music that I like, or it could even be something as meditative as maybe cooking a simple meal that I enjoy, or just appreciating something that someone has done for me. Like reflecting on that in silence. I think that's hard. A lot of people sometimes are uncomfortable with silence. We are surrounded by so much noise that sometimes we don't embrace, the quiet and stillness of life and just be able to embrace being able to absorb our surroundings. And I've been learning from different mentors and people how to be more in tune with that, how to be able to tap into what you told me about like the subconscious, about how to be present. And one of the things I would like to do is I think I would like to be able to record like dreams and stuff and maybe in the future keep like a dream journal. I don't know if that'll ever happen because most of the time when I wake up, I'll remember my dream for like a few seconds and then afterward I'll forget. And then I kind of get upset because I was like, man, that was such a good dream. I wonder if that's like my alternate reality or something.
Definitely could be. I feel like some dreams you can remember them fairly easily and you could almost visualize, like you could remember, like you can tell it like a story. And then other dreams are exactly like you said, like some of them are so vague to the point where you could remember like the feelings and like it's weird. Like yeah, dreams is definitely weird, but I do feel like dreams are like they're like your subconscious, like, but that's like at 100%, right? Because if you're when you're asleep, right, you're pretty much not conscious. Like you're not
Yeah, that's
awake. You're
like I
not.
think your REM sleep, right? I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, you're
Funny
pretty
thing
much in
about
the.
sleep, I gave you that book that you should like read. It's by Matthew Walker. I think he's like a neuroscientist about why we sleep. I found out this year that I like audiobooks and the sound of rain, wind like blowing through the trees. I found out like sounds are very soothing for me. And I was like, I wonder if I should get like one of those like noise machines when I sleep, or if I am like able to just sleep in silence. And I notice I can do both. But recently, because I usually work nights at my job right now at the hospital, it's been hard for me to sleep during the day because everyone's noisy. Life happens during the day too. So I'm like trying to put my earplugs in, put on like my little mask, be like comforted with my like four blankies on top of me and like all my pillows, and I'm trying to make like a blanket fortress, like a cocoon. Yes, I'm the type of kid who used to make pillow and blanket forts. I'm not ashamed to say that, Christian. But
um,
yeah, it's been hard to like be able to have sleep. I mean, exercise, eating, sleep. I think those are like the essential like needs. And going back to that, I mean, once you lack in one of those areas of your needs, it can be crippling.
Yeah, and something like I think that's 100% like exercise, sleep, nutrition. Like those are just pretty much I feel like objective truths about everybody that if you don't find the balance or the amount that you need, then like shit can get fucked up. Like as
Yeah.
much as you want to be like loving and all that, like if you don't sleep, like if you only sleep an hour, 2 hours every day, like it's gonna be hard. And I'm finding, I know it's kind of funny because I'm a nutrition major or whatever, but it's funny though because it's like I got my whole degree in nutrition, but it's not till like recently where I really like have this like knowledge for food, but not like textbook knowledge or like knowledge that I can tell you like carbs and protein and calories and micronutrients, like not stuff like that, but like actually understanding like the psychological influence that, like, for instance, both me and you could eat a cupcake, or both me and you could eat a slice of pizza, right? But depending on the mindset that we have for when we eat this food, it can completely change or influence the way in which that food literally interacts with your body and how like positive or negative that is. So what I'm trying to get at is that the brain has a and the mind like has so much to do with like food, like
Yeah, that's why I
because
feel that like food is really medicine. And I think I've learned, like, I've had really unhealthy eating habits as a kid, and sometimes I still do as an adult. I will tell you, the other day I did have a chocolate cupcake with extra frosting on top. I didn't feel guilty, but I learned that like it's okay once in a while to indulge. But I'm also learning that as I get older, I'm hoping that I can remove maybe sugar or lessen it, if not eliminate it, but to lessen the amount of it that I consume. And I feel like food is also culture. In a lot of cultures, we want to have, like the extra salt in the pozole. We want to be able to have, like the really sweet um, fruit like empanadas. And I feel that it's important that people realize that they can't overindulge, because when they overindulge, it's literally killing them. I mean, I can't tell you, like, sometimes it makes me sad when I see people like lack self-care or they have eating disorders. And I feel for those people because it's not their fault, they're human. And I feel like everyone goes through that different journey, but to be able to create, to be like where healthy comes from, I think is something that needs to be cultivated and learned. And I think we all have seeds to grow and to find the joy within us to be able to share that vision. I think that's also important too, that we have to be able to do what's best for us and what's best for our families. And I know we both went to Cal Poly Pomona, and the city is a food desert. I mean, we even talk about this in my program about public health and the health disparities, the social determinants of health, how people like really don't like realize that there's so many factors, intergenerational poverty. There's just so many factors that come into play that affect you as a kid that you don't even realize. And then when you grow up as an adult, you're like, oh, I never had that. And then going back to what you said earlier in the podcast about not being able to think about what is more, like Big Lots, which used to be called Pick and Save. Everybody always wants, more, 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 the American capitalism type of thing. But do we really need more? Do we just need less, maybe? Maybe we just need to pursue something that's a little bit more realistic of what we can really need rather than what we want. And I think I've learned that from my parents, because my parents are immigrants. And I think I'm learning to appreciate that their simple, humble beginnings of being able to have less, not in terms of wealth or what house you live in, but in terms of wealth in your health, and also your happiness is much more appreciative, because you can have all the nice things, but things can, like you said, be taken away by a fire or an earthquake or some other natural disaster, and you could just lose it all. But you want to be able to have, relationships, connection, people, love, all the good things in life. And I know people may disagree with this. They're like, no, like I still want to have like that nice car. I still want to have a good paying job. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I'm not dissuading one idea is better than the other. But I feel that as we get into like the upcoming holiday season, to really reflect on not only has this been a year of reflection of so many things and dynamics that have been played, but also to just really be able to see what makes you happy and to find, your own way of being okay.
Yeah. And I'm kind of interested to know more about like your background. Like you said your parents were immigrants, and like can you tell me and the listeners a little bit more about like I don't know, like the way you grew up, like where'd your parents come from, or like just kind of that idea.
Okay. Well, my parents are from India, but raised in a Catholic household, I had kind of like this weird like cultural difference. Growing up as a Christian Indian was kind of like weird for some people, because most people would think like, oh, do you practice Hinduism? Are you Baha'i faith? Are you Buddhist? And I know you did your like funny Buddha interview, but there's like a lot of culmination of religions that come from the ancient country. And I have visited the country about a decade ago, and I visited some of my cousins. But it's funny because I've also had like this interplay of being like multi-ethnic and embracing other parts of my ancestry. So I'm also like Indo-Portuguese and a little bit of like French colonial and stuff like that. But it's funny because when people say like, oh, well, like, do you speak like any of the other languages? And it's like I had this disconnect culturally. It's because like when my parents at home will speak something, sometimes I'm able to understand, but I'm not able to communicate sadly with other people from their region of southern India because my parents chose not to teach me the language. And they had their own reasonings. They just wanted me to have like more of an American English accent. But a lot of my friends who come from a similar of that cultural background, a lot of them speak like multiple languages. And I'm always like impressed and in awe because I'm just like, oh, I wish I would be able to connect with another person in another language. And I do. I mean, I connect with people at my work through Spanish. I'm not perfect. It's more like Spanglish, but I do the best I can. And in some ways, it gives me a sense to be able to connect with people. And I feel like when you learn to be a little bit multilingual, um, I feel like it breaks down a lot of barriers, even if you're not able to fully understand someone, but you're able to help them in like small things. I think that's like the greatest gift that you can give someone is being able to feel understood, but also to be able to share that with them. Are you eating a beef jerky?
No.
Is that a Pocky stick? I don't know.
No, it's oh. It's flags, banderillas, tamarindo flavored candy with salt and chili.
Oh, I love agua fresca de tamarindo. That's my favorite
Really?
drink. Yeah.
Damn, talking about cultural stuff. Um, yeah, it's beautiful. So it seems like wait. I know I am in a lot of ways I'm very ignorant, like super, super ignorant. What
It's okay. I
language?
am too. I feel like being on this podcast, people were like, man, what kind of person did he bring on here?
Super awesome person.
Yeah, thanks.
No, like what language? India is like a super huge country. I know the
Yeah,
population's like
there's a
massive,
lot of
right?
languages.
Okay, I was gonna say
I
like
don't
what
I don't
language
know
do your
how
parents
I don't
speak?
know the exact number. You probably have to go to Google, Dr. Google for everything. Um, But yeah, there's a lot of languages. A lot of people know Hindi, but that's more like northern based. But since we're southern based, I noticed this when I traveled to southern India. I mean, some people do speak Hindi in southern India too, but it's like more common. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure someone internationally will say like they disagree, which is fine. But I noticed that they tend to speak. Everyone mostly speaks English because they were colonized by the British Empire, but
Most
it's
Indians speak English.
most of them do. In some regions, you'll find that they speak limited English. So they'll be like limited English proficient people. So sometimes they'll speak Hindi, sometimes they'll speak Gujarati, or whatever the language of the region, depending on where you're from. Some people will speak Konkani, Marathi. There's all like different kinds of languages. There's like so many Tamil, all kinds. Like I don't even know how many. I'm pretty sure if I talk with my brother and my family, they'll probably like tell me there's just a lot. And so, depending on where people are from, it's just a very beautiful place. I mean, I hope I could visit it again one day. But I mean, one of the things that I did notice is that people can be very welcoming, but also there's also a lot of corruption too. And I know that the opportunities that my parents had sacrificed for me to be here in America is something I never take for granted. When I was younger, I was like so ungrateful. I was like, oh, why do I have to do this? Or, oh, why do I have to feel like I should be grateful to like be here and not have some of the hardships that they went through? And as I reflected on it, I was like, well, this is probably my opportunity to be able to create a platform for myself and be able to be grateful in my own way, not what my parents had instilled in me, but to realize as an adult the opportunities that they have given me and the opportunities that hopefully I will continue to give myself as I grow into the art of being my own beautiful human.
You say that because you're on the Art of Human podcast?
No, I'm saying it
Just kidding.
because I feel like being human is something we tend to shut off. Like I was mentioning earlier in the podcast, people tend to like switch it off and be emotionless. People tend to what we call like desensitize. We all know that person who's like, I don't know what the correct word is, but like stoic, I don't know how to say it, but like people who tend to not really tap into themselves in terms of like the feeling stuff, but they tend to be like more analytical. They tend to be just very like dry.
Is that you said earlier that you were trying to work more on the feeling part of it? Do you feel like you're more on the analytical side?
Yes and no. I feel like sometimes I can be analytical, and then other times I feel like I've been able to express myself. Um, but it's something it's always a process for me. I feel like it's not something it's like one day it's like, oh yeah, like I can do it. And then other days I'm just like, man, this is like a struggle.
I feel it. I feel it. You know what I feel right now? You want to know what I feel right
What do you feel?
now? I feel like there's a part of me that like, yo, like we're doing a podcast, but at the same time I'm getting real comfortable right now, as you could see how I'm kind of sitting down. Cause like there's been times where I stand up during the podcast, but I'm like, I'm gonna hella chill right now because I'm like, I already told you I'm pretty tired. But I don't know, I just feel like sometimes it's hard for me to just kind of let go of everything and just like really just like embrace the moment. But yeah, this is a good moment. I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, like my mind's like I feel like my brain's not working at 100%. So it's almost like this whole thing has kind of been like a fucking dream. And like some of the like you'll be talking like I'm being serious, like I'm listening to everything you're saying, but by the time you get to the end of it, I'm just like, man, like what am I gonna say next? But it's like I'm thinking that way because it's like the podcast, you know. But I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like it's like when you want to say something, it's like on the tip of your tongue, and then when the person is speaking, you're like, wait, let me have a moment, just shut up and just let me say something.
Oh, I think I know what it is right now. I'm just really enjoying just listening, like to what you're saying. And so I think that's why I'm just kind of, yeah, that's why I'm asking questions. Cause I like to like when I'm tired, I like to listen. I like to just listen. So let's see, what else can I ask Lauren? Hmm. Hmm.
If
But
you had to pick to be a type of monkey, what would you be and why?
that's a great question, but I don't know that much of different types of monkeys.
There's orangutan, there's baboon, there's gorilla.
Okay, I know those three. How much more? Give me more. If you ask this question, that means you have to know at least 10 different
Oh
types.
no. I think that's all the three I know, maybe.
See,
I'm
those
pretty
are the
sure
three
there's
I
more.
know too. I feel like those are the three that probably most people would know about. Out of those three, the the chimpanzees like the most, they're like the black ones that like are most similar to us, right? The chimpanzees are the ones that are most similar to humans, right?
I
Aren't
think
they?
so, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure.
You know
There's
what?
that fam-
That's
there's
why
that
we got
famous
Google.
there's that famous woman, right, who worked with them.
What was her name?
Oh man, dude, I'm like so bad with that.
I'm looking up a chimpanzee as you're talking. Yep, this is the exact one that I was thinking about. Chimpanzee, like that. This is the type of monkey I would
Didn't
like
they
to
have
be.
like that like on Nickelodeon or something when you watch like Jimmy Neutron? They used to have like that
Yeah.
little like monkey at the end or something with like the
Yep.
third eye or something.
Did he have a third eye?
I can't remember. It was like
Maybe it did. I
something.
know Joe Rogan has something. Do you watch Joe Rogan? You didn't even know who Joe Rogan was,
I
right?
didn't know until you introduced me to him, and I watched like maybe I don't even remember the video. I watched like one thing or something. Very interesting the way he interviews people and gets set. Like everyone has like a different way of interviewing people, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's the whole point too.
Yeah. I'm looking up this monkey from Nickelodeon because I want to see if it has a third. It does have the third eye. It's DNA Productions. Watch. Dude, that's like kind of crazy. It has a monkey with a third eye. Isn't that kind of crazy? I feel like these cartoons as a kid, like as a kid, you didn't notice how like kind of
I
deep they
feel like
were.
that could be like a spiritual significance for some people, because for some people they think like the third eye is kind of like the evil, not evil eye, but it's like for protection or something, or it's like your other like senses or whatever. I don't know.
So you haven't looked too much into the third eye.
No, not really. I'm pretty sure someone probably, I don't know. I'm pretty sure someone that I've talked to in a discussion in the past has probably like mentioned it to me, but there's just so many things that like I'm okay with saying I don't know. That if I don't know something, like I've just learned to say like I don't know, like maybe I'll find it out later or ask someone who's more knowledgeable on it.
I'm the same way. Like there's some people who are really into like third eye stuff and like I'll say that I'm like spiritual whatever, but I'm not like you won't really catch me at like I'm not what am I trying to say? Like I'm not going to like websites and stuff and like looking at all this like chakra stuff. Like don't get me wrong, I enjoy that and I've read a little bit about chakra stuff, but like for me it's really just about like for me spirituality is just literally me being in tune with my body. Like it's not even so much ideas that I read from books. Like it's really just like me understanding how my body moves and like I don't know, I have a book, it's called Becoming a Supple Leopard.
I've
Have you
never
heard
heard
of
of
it?
that book. Mm-mm.
Well, pretty much it teaches you how to use your body. Like I know that sounds kind of funny, but it teaches you how to properly use like your body because there's like I think the book says there's like seven or eight archetypes I think that's how you say it. Archetypes, you know what that is? Like it's like an archetype, like for instance, like lifting something up, like there's an archetype for that. Like obviously I can lift up a bunch of things, but this is like one type of archetype. Then there's like this kind of movement, and then like a squat is like an archetype. So basically there's like seven or eight different archetypes, which which um basically would include all of human movement, like the different styles of human movement. And this book kind of teaches you how to do that human movement, and really it talks a lot about like mobility and doing like deep tissue work, and like how torque works. Like doing a push-up is like
Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay.
you remember that from where?
From one of my classes in
Oh,
kinesiology,
right.
we took like a biomechanics class, which is like basically exercise applied to physics. Very interesting class. It was one of my harder classes in kinesiology, just because physics I think physics lab was more fun for me than the theory of physics. But it's funny because I had someone um introduce me to like a different realm called like quantum physics and like metaphysical sciences and stuff like that. But that's like a different genre for a different day. And even I don't know that much about it, but I was kind of exposed to that. And it's kind of helped me think about the world in a different way, or at least to see like other people's perspectives about how the world is viewed. It's kind of like abstract thinking, which is kind of challenging for me, but also like I love like reading about it, but then also like applying it is like a little bit difficult.
Hmm. My question is, what, like, I know you do exercise. Like, what do you do for exercise?
Mm.
Well, I think you mentioned you do exercise. I don't
Yeah.
like what do you like to do?
It really depends. Sometimes if I'm lazy, I'll just do stretching like yoga, like very light stretching inside the house or in my room. If I'm feeling motivated, I'll go for like a small jog. And I jokingly told you I'm not the fastest runner. I'm not a very fast runner. I've been trying to train myself as an adult to be a little bit healthy or more of a jogger. But I do enjoy like hiking, walks. When I used to go to the gym before the pandemic, I used to love functional movement fitness, FMS, different things that are applicable like to everyday life. I would try to challenge myself with people who I used to work out at the gym. And it was actually a lot of fun because I was able to meet people and challenge myself to learn about different things from different people and why they thought this and who thought was the best diet for what and their nutrition. But I feel like everybody's body, it has their own journey, and there's really no right or wrong way to exercise your body or to fuel your body. You have to just do what's right for you.
Okay. So lately your most common thing has been yoga and like stretching?
Yoga, stretching. Sometimes it's been hit. Sometimes I've been doing like boxing. I had
Mhm.
like these pair of like old boxing gloves that I got because my girlfriend and I, we, not my girlfriend, but like my friend who I call my friend, who's my girlfriend anyway. She and I went for like this boxing class. And so we tried it out. It was like a trial of like 6 classes. And I was like, okay, cool. Free boxing gloves, like come along with it. So I tried it out and I kind of exposed myself to like some mixed martial arts. And I was like, okay, this is kind of fun, like just to try it out. So I tried boxing. I've tried a little bit of Muay Thai. I've tried jujitsu. I'm not very good at it. I definitely have the white belt mentality. I'm not very consistent with it. I've had a contact of mine on Instagram who tries to reach out to me once in a while to like make me come back to like try it out. It'd be so good for you. You'd learn like real life skills about not only just defending yourself but having more confidence. And I haven't been able to because of this pandemic, because of the spread of infection, and just for my own health and safety. I know there's a lot of people who just don't care. They're just like, this is a made up disease. I won't wear a mask. And they're right to have those opinions too. And I respect those as well. So, I mean, for me, it's just, I just do what's the best that I can. um, but yeah, I'll try to do hit training. You'll probably laugh. A lot of times I just go on YouTube and just find random videos online. I go on people's Instagrams. I mean, I was a kinesiology major, so a lot of people that I follow on my Instagram, either 40 to 50%. I have a cousin who's like a fitness personality in India. He got his, what you have, I think, is it the CSCS? Do you have that?
CISSN. It's like
Okay,
certified sports nutritionist.
That's what he has. I'm sorry. My bad. Wrong certification. But I know he has numerous certifications in that. And he actually switched from being into like investment, finance, and business. He went from that into like the fitness realm, and he's much happier and healthier with that. So he enjoys doing that and helping people build healthier lives. And then being a kinesiology major, it was funny because when I graduated, from Cal Poly Pomona, I will never forget what my dad said. My dad and my brother were with me at this banquet, and they were just looking at all my classmates. They were like, "Oh my God, why are people so fit here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a kinesiology major. Like a lot of people are very in tune with their health." And my dad saw this one girl. He's like, "Oh my God, like she's so ripped, and how did she get so fit?" I'm like, "Dad, like stop judging. Like all bodies are beautiful, man." um, but it was funny because I realized that really being body positive in my own life and like appreciating my own body and how it is and where it's going to be at in the next so many years. I work with older people, so I know that aging happens and our bodies change, and to just embrace the unknown, I think has been an eye opener. I think working everywhere from the very young with my children at my behavior therapist job to working with the very old, working in a nursing home at Country Oaks, and to now like working in a hospital, which is like the in between on the med surge floor. But I'm really grateful for the opportunities that people have given me. And I feel as an adult, I'm extremely grateful that people believe in me, but more importantly, that I'm believing in myself and honing into my own vulnerability as like a power, but more of it not just being a power, but for me as a tool to use in my everyday life, especially when I feel like hopeless. I think it's just a humble reminder to be more resilient and to appreciate how far I've come rather than where I've been or where I'm going to be.
Wow. Dude, you always blow me away with your answers.
I don't
I
think so. I
appreciate.
feel like you're going to have someone in the future in the podcast who'll have something very intriguing and you're going to get like so many views one day. And that's going to be a very interesting person.
What
You
do you
just
mean?
wait. You never
You are an
know.
interesting person.
I feel like
Like,
there's more interesting people than me. I've noticed that.
what do you mean?
But
That's subjective. Like to say there's people more interesting than me. Like that's an opinion.
okay, maybe I need to stop having opinions and just embracing it then.
Well, what I'm trying to say is like, dude, like if you were to show up on Joe Rogan's podcast, like a few million people would watch it, but that's because they're on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like this podcast doesn't get that many people viewing it, but you've talked in front of, you said 500 to 1,000 people. Like I don't know exactly the full context of that, but they didn't give you that opportunity because they didn't think you were cool or like had something awesome to say. Like I'm sure you had that opportunity because somebody was like, "Damn, like Lauren is a really good speaker. She's got some really interesting
But
points.
I wasn't
She
always
has."
like that. I've
No,
had
I
like
know,
my
but what I'm trying to get
struggles.
at is that like you are a really great like guest right now. You have really wonderful thoughts and opinions and a way of seeing life. Like honestly, it's really inspiring just to hear you because like I said, there's not that many people that elaborate about life in the way that you're doing so. And like I said, like you'll say a bunch of things and it all like connects and it's all like just like a big it's like a big connection of all of it. Like you literally went from talking about your cousin in India to graduation, your dad saying something about people being really fit. Like you were saying, like your answer was like, yeah, I enjoy it.
Maybe I'll share some poetry now. I had actually submitted this poem at my school, but I don't know if I'll get selected. But it's something I worked on over the summer. I think for me, just being able to have spoken word has been something that I've been inspired to have just for myself, not really to have it like on a podcast or a YouTube video. I know they have like those cool like poetry slams. I think I've attended like one or two of those when they had them in downtown Pomona, but I've always been inspired by those people because I feel like oral history or spoken word, in terms of like oral traditions, how things are passed down in cultures, you know, like family stories and stuff like that. I think that's important. So this poem is called Humanism. And here we go. I have it written down on my little, like, you can't see it, but it's like a yellow like notepad,
Oh, I saw
kind of
it for
like
a
kind of
second.
like Blue's Clues or something. But yeah, it's my big little notepad. So are you ready for it? Hopefully the audience
I'm
likes
ready.
it.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. This is the form, the style is called an acrostic poem. So basically, what that means is the first letter of the word that I'm going to tell you, each line is like the letter of the spelling of the word. So the word I have is humanism, and the first line, H, stands for hear the voices of the world. U, unite their feelings of empathy for humanity. M, music of all kinds brings soul to science. Aware of change to be more caring to each other. N, knitted sunflowers give rays of hope. Knitted is like another word for like light or something that's like very bright. I, intentions for peace throughout the land. S, soul search for justice and truth. N, namaste, to place humans with connection of deep feeling in the heart where a union of spirits blossom. And that is the word humanism to me. I hope
What?
you all enjoyed that.
What's namaste? I've heard that word before, but
Google it.
you want me to Google it? I Google it real quick. Let me see. But I really enjoyed that though. You're gonna have to like.
I have
Do you have
other
like a
poems.
No, wait. That PDF that you just read. Do you have it like? Do you have like a picture of it? Or did you make like a
Right now,
graphic of
I'm
it?
trying to create either PDF or a document of it. I have a couple of other poems like haikus that are like shorter and stuff. That's one of the things I'm doing is I would like to write a book one day. I just don't know on what. My mom jokingly told me, she says, you should write a cookbook, a funny cookbook of like the Indian American medley or whatever it could be. Or it could be like My Labyrinth of Love. I don't know. That's just some like titles I played with in my head over the course of like a few years. But I don't know if I'll ever publish a book or self-publish, but that's something I've always wanted, especially with going through, you know, different things, like difficult things of like adolescence. And as an adult, I just feel like I wanted to just have something of my own. And in terms of that, I think I've been really inspired by different poets throughout the years. I think the one of them that's really connected with me a lot is Rupi Kaur. I don't know how to say her name, but she's a really good poet. I think she writes the book Milk and Honey. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I think I have. I don't remember what it's about, but I feel like I've seen that title.
Yeah. So she has like some really good stuff. I mean, of course, the traditional ones from like Robert Frost and like The Monkey's Paw and like other like fun stuff from like childhood that you used to like read in like your English or literature classes and stuff like that. I think just exposing myself, like I was never really the strongest student, and I still am not sometimes. I just, some days I'm just, you know, doing the best I can to just make the most of it. But I'm realizing this year when I started listening to audiobooks that it kind of took me back to like story time of childhood when you're at the library, and I didn't realize that I might be a little bit of an audio learner when it comes to books. Like I remember you telling me like it was such a struggle to like read books at Cal Poly and like try to read like a paragraph. I feel you on that one. It was like so hard. But I think this last year when I decided to try out Libby, I think it's like a audiobook app, similar to like Audible or whatever. There's like so many now. There's like too many, Hoopla, whatever. Um, those like apps I think have been really helpful because like I can exercise and listen to something. I can listen to like there's another famous book too, the it's the book by Mr. Covey, The Seven Highly Effective Habits of Highly Successful People, or something like that. I know that someone at the gym had recommended that to me and actually read the book. And I know a lot of people read that in high school or something, which a friend of mine had told me that. And I was like, oh, I didn't know people actually read that in high school. But it was something I read as an adult. I've even was referred to this other book, I think called The Reptilian Brain, which I haven't read yet, but I'm curious about that book too.
I think you should. I think you should start documenting. Obviously, you've already documented it by writing it down on a piece of paper.
I know I need to like actually like put it in permanent, like in a PDF or a file, and like
Yeah, if you
copyright
were
it,
to, if
trademark it.
you could do the last parts, but I was gonna say like if you were to just make it into like a digital piece of content and then just like put it out into like to the internet, I think that'd
That's
be really
something I would
cool.
have to work on. Maybe you could help me with that.
Do you mean work on it like from the technical standpoint or like to get the like or what do you mean by do you want like is it like encouragement? Are you kind of shy of putting out your work into the world or is it or what?
I don't know if I'm like really shy about putting it into the world. It's more of like I want to know that the content that I create will be something that will not just inspire, but also to make people, have a little bit more like happiness, or like to make them question like, wow, that was something that was, it doesn't have to be profound, but it's something that makes people like, wow, that's something I never thought about in that way.
Well,
I
I
think
think
I was like told as a kid that I asked too many questions. And one of my jobs jokingly says like Lauren was most likely the person to ask questions. And I think it's because like I'm curious. So like maybe when I write, or like when I'm in a writing mode, when I'm like thinking, I try to think about ideas that spark curiosity and innovation. It may not seem like it, but it's something that I think is something that I hope to create. And even if people don't like it, it's okay. It's just, it would make me something that I'm proud of, the work that I put out.
well, I guess you said maybe I can help you. I think the first thing I could tell you is that your work has already like I've already enjoyed what you've told me, which you've literally only read like one poetry. And just like knowing you as a person for as much as I know you, like I already said, like you have a particular way of looking at things and you have like everybody has a unique story. Like your parents came from a particular place, like you were telling me about your parents,
But
like
I've
dude, like
also learned that our stories don't always have to like be about us. Like sometimes you can also end the story and also begin your own life, or have your own kind of like awakening.
yeah. And like people like you said, people can not like it or people can like it, but you never really know until you put it out there. So I would just say, like, if you felt like it, because if you don't feel like it, that's perfectly fine too. And I would say, like, don't do it because you don't feel like doing it. But if you ever do feel like sharing it with people, I'd say go for it, because
Okay.
the same way, and don't get me wrong, this is coming from a person which in maybe some ways I'm similar to you because, like, you've mentioned, like, you're probably leaning more towards introvert than extrovert. I would have to say the same about myself. Like me doing this podcast and me having Instagram and me being like, even putting out stuff on Instagram, promoting the podcast or whatever, like putting my face out there and like videos of my dude, you literally I put out a video of me in my underwear, like outside talking to a freaking statue. Like,
But at least you were
but
able to make some people laugh. Some people like thought it was funny because like sometimes it's been a hard day and you just need to like, well, I'll cuss a little bit, shoot the shit sometimes, and you just need to like take a breather, and you're like, you know what, like let it be how it's gonna be, and just go with the flow, and we'll just see how it turns out.
yeah, exactly. Like what I'm trying to get at is that like just have fun with the process of putting out like content and like you'll never regret it. Like it's weird though. Like I'll have certain times where I'll post something and I'm like, fuck, I'm super anxious about it or I'm super like fearful about the judgment. And what I've noticed more is that I'm usually most fearful of like posting stuff on Instagram because I feel like that's like the platform where I have.
It's like so much toxicity. Like, I mean, I know we follow each other on Instagram, but maybe that's why I don't like post like too many stories or like have like the little like videos and stuff. And it's because I'm like you as an introvert. I'm like, am I overthinking this? Maybe I should just post something and like not care and just like, live my own life and just record life. And that's people what they do is they use social media to document their lives, good, bad, everything in between. I mean, of course, like some people think it's toxic. I think this year I decided like to delete my Facebook, but then I realized I'm still connected to Facebook because I still have an Instagram. So I was like, that was a fail. But then I also learned from my university at my orientation last year that failure means it's your first attempt in learning. Now, as cheesy as that sounds, it is also some little nuggets of wisdom that's kind of gotten me through some difficult circumstances and kind of reminds me that it's okay to, as they say, try again, but also that we shouldn't look at failure as something to be like a negative connotation, but like as you said, turn that negative into a positive.
Yeah, and there's something like there's a lot of beauty in social media. One perspective, there's a lot of beauty because one of the most satisfying things that I've done on social media is that on Facebook I haven't done it in a while, but probably one of the most fulfilling things that I've done on social media was going on Facebook Live. And because on Facebook Live, I think you could put like a caption for your video. And I put, ask me anything about nutrition, like, let's talk. And I just went live on Facebook. And like, it's not like I had freaking 30, 40, 100,000 people like watching me. Literally, it would be like one person, two people. It might just be my mom. And she asked me something about nutrition,
I
right?
love moms though. They're like your best cheerleaders and
Yeah, they are.
supporters.
My mom's literally the biggest cheerleader. Like,
I
like,
think all moms are, even dads are too. Dads and other people in your life, guardians, I've seen that too. They're always like your biggest like supporters. As long as you have that, friends, family, whoever it is. I remember I went to one graduation and there was like a huge family. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool to like have such a big family and have all that support and love?
your family is the best. Um, and just to like finish my point real quick, like,
Are you getting sleepy?
am I getting sleepy? I'm pretty good right now. I feel pretty good. Um, like I would do these Facebook live videos, and I would have like my mom, like my aunt, and like sometimes like my high school coach for cross country and like stuff like that. But like there was a few people that would tune in, and like that was probably one of the most gratifying things I've ever done on social media, because it was just like, because I think that's the thing about me. Like I like to just connect. Like if we can be in live, like that's the most authentic way of connecting with somebody through social media. The same way us doing this podcast right now is just me and you. Like this is like a form of social media because it's obviously it's like a platform and we're using it to communicate. Like that's the kind of communication that I really love because it's just like in real time. So it's not like me having to come up with this piece of content and then I post it. What's gonna happen? Like no, like I have a live video and I get to interact with people and I get to eat like in the moment, give advice or support or just a conversation.
That's
So
why I
I don't
love
know, maybe.
That's why I love storytellers. I think it's so fascinating when people have podcasts, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or whatever platform they have now. It's really cool. Just people's lives are very fascinating, and sometimes if we don't get to record them, we lose out on missed opportunities to not only hear about lived experiences, but also to gain the wisdom of the human experience, and that is irreplaceable.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, like us doing this podcast, of course other people can look at it and hope maybe they get some insightful information or whatever. Like I've watched plenty of content that I've been inspired by, like Joe Rogan, I don't know, Matthew McConaughey, Bruce Lee,
Bruce Lee
Hickson
is
Gracie.
very, very fascinating. I feel like watching his videos of his discipline and his tenacity and grit. It was so sad that he had to die at such a young age, but also at the same time, he accomplished a lot in his short time here on this earth.
That's the kind of shit, like, that's the reason I'm on social. Cause I'm like, dude, like, I've been inspired so much by people who were in movies, by people who have a podcast, by people like book authors that have written books. And like what I was gonna say earlier too is like, even if we did this podcast and like I don't post it anywhere and it's literally just for us to be talking right now, like it's worth something in the sense that like I'm elaborating some ideas or feelings that I have. You're elaborating ideas and feelings that you have right now. And once we're done, like once we end this and once we continue and wake up tomorrow and the next day, like we've done something here, like you're gonna be in your mind like, oh yeah, like I had that conversation with Christian, and like we recorded it, and then like this will go on YouTube. So like literally 5-10 years from now, you'll be like, oh man, like let me see what I was like when I don't even know how old you are, when I was like 25, and like let me see what was going on back then, and I can literally go back and see exactly the kind of thoughts and ideas, genuine or disingenuous, like I'll be able to see that. So even if it's not worth for anybody else, like it's valuable for ourselves if you have the mindset. That's the way I see it.
I think it's like how we grow and our experiences. Like we all go through phases in life, and this is just one part or snippet of that. Like if you think of like a timeline, right? And you see that there's arrows at both ends and there's no end to it. It's like goes on to infinity. You know, like right now at the point of our both lives, because we're relatively young, we're only at like the very itty bitty beginning on that big line of life. Or even if you want to bend the line or see it not even as that, as some other kind of like weird other realm. Um, we've only lived a little bit of our life so far, and we have so much more to go. And people who are older than us have lived so much of their life, but they too also have so much great things to offer too.
And that's if you're looking at things from the human perspective. But if you look at things from a much more macro perspective, it's like, dude, you could be 100-year-old human, and in one perspective, you're still young as fuck because like this universe has been around for 13.6 billion years, and even till the day that you die, like if you're not thinking of yourself as a human, but just thinking of yourself as a part of this universe, like you are so freaking young, like there's a beauty in kind of recognizing that, I feel like, because it's like, yo, I'm so ignorant, but there's so much beauty in knowing that there's so much out there. There's so much vastness. It's just, this is something that I've realized. Like, it's like there's no, once you realize that there's no sense of perfection, like you can go to school, go to school, go to school, go to school, have a freaking PhD and have all this 60 years of experience in your field. Relative to other humans, yo, like you're, like you know a lot, which is great. Which is super great. But in relative to the universe and the grand scheme of like the amount of knowledge which is out there, which is like infinite, like you still don't know anything. So I think the reason I say that and the reason I like that perspective is because it brings me a sense of peace.
Mm-hmm.
That as much ignorance that I might have right now at this moment, there's no reason not to be grateful and content for the way that things are at this exact moment. Because give me 30 years of podcasting, right? Let's say I'm the best like I'm the number one viewed podcaster 20 years from now. It still doesn't make this moment any more than it is right now at the level of knowledge and experience that I have, because there's an infinite amount of knowledge and experience. And if I truly appreciate the right now, exactly where I'm at, and I'm not just freaking, oh my God, I can't wait till I'm just like have these many viewers. And I just hope that like one day I have all this knowledge. Like if I could actually appreciate for who I am at this exact moment, then it doesn't, like, there's never gonna be a perfect moment. So what I'm trying to get at is the whole concept of like being in the present moment. I think that being in the present moment is losing all your ambitions, being completely empty minded, being completely immersed in the moment. And that's it. Like, it's not even thinking like, yo, I'm existing in the moment. It's just like,
It's more like feeling,
it's a
being
completely
aware.
feeling. It's
Yeah.
completely feeling. That's why I
And
love Bruce Lee.
I feel like that's so important, and that's why I was saying, like, a lot of people tune that out. A lot of people live their lives very robotic, and it's so unhealthy. Sometimes I have to catch myself too doing that. I'm like, "Whoa, did I just really feel that way?" I was like, "Whoa, let me like reflect and like, really think about what I'm feeling right now instead of just like letting the moment pass."
Keep going. No. You're getting tired too, huh?
Well, it's up to you. This is your show, dude.
How are you feeling though? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Pretty good.
I
Kind
mean,
of.
if you want to ask more, it's totally up to you. I mean, I know you've
Okay.
had a long day. Well, I kind of slept all day recovering from yesterday at work, but yeah, I have to like,
Okay.
during the regular week, I'm like a normal person. I get up during the day and try to do things and do that, but just 1 or 2 nights a week, I become a night owl. So I'm like kind of and the bridge between juggling being a lark or a day person and then on my nights that I work at the hospital being at the night. It's funny because I never thought I'd actually work night shift, and it's kind of been beneficial learning a lot about people, but also how people like to have their routines at night, or people whose routines have been disturbed at night when they're at the hospital. So it's very funny, and so many like funny stories that I hear. But it's also been an eye opener and wisdom about like, I guess, how to be a caregiver and how to care for people. And in terms of me, because I'm family oriented, it kind of made me realize I'm like, well, I hope I can give this like somewhat of a good care for my parents when they get old if they are not able to care for themselves. But I know not everyone thinks that way, or they look into options where they can find someone else to care for their loved one. So it's made me think a lot about that, about life, and to really just be able to, like you said, be happy.
I'll use that to promote the podcast. You doing that right now?
Are you sure? You don't want to be like, I have to go and like smell the flowers or something?
Ooh.
I actually
Okay.
have this
Those are real
book.
flowers?
No, they're actually fake, but I have this book. You can't see it, sorry, because of my background, but it's the
Wait, can you take off the
wildflowers.
background so you can show me?
Let me see. Hold on. Let me go into the settings. Do, 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 do.
All right, while you do that, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick and then we'll start wrapping up. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, hold on. How do I? Is it just a quick question?
What's
I
up?
don't know if this will be in the progress. Where it says edit profile picture, is that where I go?
Uh,
No, not that one then.
hopefully, if it's gonna like exit you out, like, then don't worry about it. Cause I'd rather not do that.
I'll worry. I won't worry about it. But basically, it was given to me actually by someone long time ago who studied botany, and I kind of like look at this handout sometimes when I'm walking around. It has like different types of flowers in like Southern California and how they're native here. It's kind of funny how they have different flowers that are like funny, like dog fiddle and mayweed and miner's lettuce and stuff like that. But it's always something that I think about is like how we need to be more in tune with nature, and how people need to like sometimes like get out there. And I've done this with someone who taught me this about like removing your shoes and like feeling the earth.
Hmm.
I think, didn't you do that? I can't remember if you did that on a podcast or not.
I mean, I was definitely barefoot last that podcast I was outside.
So okay, so you're probably already aware of this then, about being able to like really feel the earth and try to be able to like be more in tune with nature and things like that. I feel like technology is a blessing, but it's also made us a little bit disconnected in some ways. It's great to connect and also disconnect. I don't know, it's like a fine line that
I
people struggle
agree.
with.
I agree 100%. I didn't really get to, I didn't say this earlier, but when I was asking you about how much time do you spend by yourself, like for me, like I spend a lot of time by myself. Like, I mean, and I say a lot of times, obviously that's like contextual. I'm really saying a lot only relative to what I think most
I
people
mean, I
do.
do make time. I do spend time with like family and friends, but I feel like this pandemic has just exacerbated like me having me time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, me too. Like, I don't like I've spent the most time by myself like during this pandemic, like ever, than ever. But I've also learned that like this is kind of just who I am. Like, I like to spend a lot of time by myself. Like, and like it's a part of my balance, like my equilibrium. Like, I spend a good amount of time by myself. Even if like one day I'm married or I live with somebody, have a significant other like that, like I'll probably still have my routine where like I take at least an hour by myself because it's a big part of me being at equilibrium, at least right now. Like, even if it's just me taking 5-10 minutes to like do some breathing exercise, like that shit is literally changed. Like, it can
It's a
literally
game
just
changer
refresh your mind.
when you do like kundalini or dragon fire breathing, or like how you had your belly breathing that you've had already in your videos. Like that's so important. I was taught that too by a person, and I felt like that's actually helped me in some ways to reactivate parts of my brain and also to be aware that I'm like something greater than I thought I could be. And sometimes just breathing, like you said, is such like self-healing too, even if we don't realize it. When we tell people to take a breath, sometimes people like hyperventilate instead of like really like feeling into their body and reflecting on what they need. And that just goes to my point way earlier in the, I don't know if it was the middle or early-ish part of the podcast about how emotions feed into physical disease and ailments. But there's so much medical research, as I mentioned, that has been done on this. And it's like very true. And it's very sad that people aren't really taught how to healthily have emotions because we're taught like this toxic masculinity of like men or boys should not cry and women shouldn't be this or that. But we have to break down some of those constructs and kind of reevaluate what is helpful, you know, for yourself and for how you want to live your life.
To add on to your point, I feel like that's exactly why it's so important to, you don't necessarily have to be by yourself, but to be into that meditative mind state of like everything's just flowing effortlessly. Or like it could be a meditation where you literally just sit back and just like allow your thoughts to just like play their course, quote unquote, negative, positive. Like, there's no positive or negative, like they just are what they are. And you just go limp, right? Like, as if you're like literally just try to pretend like you're literally just dead. Like, completely relax your body. You'll be surprised by how
You can do like autogenic tuning, or you could do like tense muscle relaxation. I know I'd taken like a class and like
autogenic what?
there was a class at Cal Poly Pomona. They had like what was it called? It was like uh the stress reliever class or whatever. I forgot what the course was called, but it was taught by a health promotion professor, and it was very interesting about different ways to relieve stress. And I remember everyone was trying to do the assignments and not actually like read and actually absorb the material for like your well-being. And we were just doing it to like, oh, I just want to take it like an easy A course and just get my class and get my degree, you know, that rush. But I actually took that course, and it actually helps me a little bit at the time being to have a little bit more balance in my life. I remember one of my fondest memories with one of my engineering friends at Camp Light Pomona, she and I went around. They had like these little stations and like the pancakes and the quad and stuff at the university, and we literally were like little kids, and we went up and down like the seesaw. They're like, sit on this and see who's heavy or whatever, and we just went up and down because we were like the same weight. So we were just playing on this thing that the engineering department had done and playing with the cool things that they sometimes have, the projects. Sometimes it's also like the school of architecture and whatnot. But it kind of reflected me to just continue to always have wonder and never forget to see the goodness in difficult situations.
Damn. You literally go from talking about your Canese class to think, damn. I'm just like, I don't know how to explain. I just like it. I almost don't like. There's no like. The only thing I could do is just continue adding to your point. I feel like at this point, if we do another podcast, like it should literally just be you saying something. Which I guess this is the way a podcast
No,
should
but we're
just
supposed to
be.
have a conversation.
No, but I almost feel like it should just be you say something and then I just add something. Then like I finish, then you add something, and it's like we just make our whole podcast like it's just like we're just literally like that's what I'm saying. I guess podcasts are like that where you're just bouncing off. But like you get what I'm saying? Like maybe if we do another podcast, like you say something and then I just add my thoughts to it and then you I guess
So
that's
we could
already
like
what
co-interview each other. I kind of like that.
yeah, that's what I'm
It would
saying.
be
Like
like
I
it would
don't
be like a
even
funny like rapid fire or something.
yeah, like almost like we'll purposely make it that like as soon as you're finished talking, like you have to either add to it or you have to ask me a question. Like there's no gaps in between. And
That's
we'll make it
funny.
like a 30-minute power podcast where like
Oh, a power podcast. That's
a
kind of
power
interesting.
podcast. Like it's 30 minutes, but it has to be very intensive 30 minutes of like, let's fucking go. But there's no holding back either. So like if there's no holding back, that means that I'll probably have my voice like really loud the way it's kind of right now. And there's probably gonna be cursing on my side. um but there also that means you also have to have that intensity. Do you think you could bring that intensity?
I'll do my
A
best.
30-minute power podcast. It'll be like literally you're lifting weights and it's just like it'll be like one of your hit workouts, but it's a podcast. So
That's
maybe
funny.
if we really want to make this a high like a if we do a 30-minute power cast, maybe it should be like maybe like every 5 minutes, like both of us have to get down and like do some push-ups. Like so it'll like legit be like we're powering through our ideas, but then physically we're actually
What are you
demanding our
trying to
bodies
do?
too.
Maybe do like a full metal jacket test or something, or sign me up for the like Army Corps or something.
I don't
I
know,
don't think
dude.
I
It's
was meant
just
to be a GI Jane. I respect those men and women and other people who serve in our, military branches and stuff, but it would be funny like to have a mental and physical challenge. It would be actually kind
that'd
of
be kind of
hilarious.
badass, right? Dude, like
I
think
think it would be
about
funny because I'd be really awkward, but I'd be laughing through it.
you'd be laughing, it'd be awkward, it'd take away all the anxiety because literally you're physically expending the energy. And like I feel like it's almost like have you seen Hot Ones on YouTube?
Oh yeah.
Like I feel
Hmm.
like that's what makes that show kind of so cool. Is because like they can never be that serious because they're literally eating these hot fucking wings. And at one point someone's gonna be like, holy fuck, and then they're gonna start crying. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Especially with these virtual podcasts, man. Like, I'm not saying I dislike them. They're cool, but
I know,
it's
dude.
not
I was like,
physical,
I
you know?
liked your idea, what you told me over the phone, but for the time being, I'm just trying to be safe.
To do a podcast like at a park or something.
Yeah, or whatever other idea you have in mind. That's
You
probably safe, but I don't know. With the restrictions that are going on, sometimes I don't even know because I don't know if the rules are changing. Sometimes you just have to like not break the rules, but find out like what is it? Like a compromise or something. Like a safe compromise.
yeah. So what would be your safe compromise?
I don't know.
Well, we'll figure out those details at some point, I guess. But this COVID thing, unless a meteor hits and we all die before this thing's over.
Whoa, that went like total 360. Oof.
I just like to be real and like fuck it. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that like I mean, at some point this whole COVID thing is gonna die down, and eventually I'm thinking people are gonna be able to just get together and not have to be so.
I know people have already done that already. What are you talking
Yeah, no,
about?
no, I know people are meeting up. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like I meet up with a few people too, and obviously I work at a restaurant, so I see people all the time. But what I'm trying to get at is that like I'm sure there's other people like myself, like in like it's like it's in their back of our brain, like like I want to go see my aunt who's like 60 years old, but like COVID, like you know what I'm saying? Like there's that thing in the back of your mind, like I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's called your universal conscious. Do you remember when you were like watching that movie? What is it, Pinocchio or something? The little cricket
Oh,
that's like in your mind or whatever creature you have in your mind. People have different whatever. That little thing, they have all like those True Moo commercials, or they had like the angelic one, and then like the little devil or something on like on each one of your shoulders, like one of those things.
yeah. See, and the big thing about that is that I'm a big like hugger. Like I like to hug people and I like to handshake hands. Like I'm a big I don't know if I should say like touchy person, but I
Your
don't know.
probably
It's
your
like
your love language is physical touch. You just like to be able to connect with people.
yeah, but it's usually like I don't know. It's so weird because COVID happened to happen at the point in my life where I'm like actually like more self-aware than I've ever been. So it's gonna be interesting to see how I interact with people once COVID's kind of been resolved, right? But like I'm a huge like handshaker, like hugger. I'm not like that with like everybody, like because I'll get in my moments where I just like, I'm just like to myself. But like like especially now, like that's the most frustrating thing about COVID for me is like I don't know, let's just like one of my best friends, his dad does like yard work, like stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so my mom pretty much like paid him to do some work in our backyard. And like he came over and like it's like, dude, it kills me so much not to like shake his hand and like give him a hug. I don't know. It's just like, and I could have asked him like, yo, are you cool to like handshake? But I don't know. It's just like we both kind of just kept our distance. But for me, that's the whole thing about like COVID that like, because I'm a big like handshaker, hugger. But
But you're not the only person that's feeling that way. They have literally done like so much research about human touch, human connection. I've taught this, I know this. From the class I taught, like people are struggling, physical therapists are struggling to work with their patients because you have to be physically in the room with them, touch them,
yeah,
help them rehab after an injury. Um, Other people who do religious work or spiritual work or healing work, people who are light workers or whatever you want to call them, the do-gooders of the world, whatever industry they're in. People need actual genuine human connection, and you cannot suspend physical touch for an extreme long periods of time, because what that results in is feelings of loneliness and depression. And as Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta had once said, that loneliness is one of the diseases of the world, you know and it's very sad that there's no really cure for that sometimes. And the only way you can do that is by being able to touch, to connect with people in a way that makes them feel loved, cared for, and also at the same time to feel healthy and happy.
yeah. How do you feel about like COVID, like not be I don't know if you're like a hugging person, like how has that affected you and how many people who do you have in your life right now that you still feel comfortable like you guys still hug and stuff?
I'm pretty sure I've broken some of the rules with some of my patients. I've actually hugged some of my patients. I've held their hand. Um, Even the patients that I knew who had COVID.
Really?
I was gowned up though. I will make a disclaimer. Oh my gosh, I hope I don't get fired. But I was wearing the PPE, but while wearing the PPE, having my gloves on and, you know, the whole garb and the face shield and everything, I still, you know, will sometimes hold a hand or put a hand on their shoulder to comfort them. Because when you're sick, the only thing you're worried about is, am I going to get through this? Am I okay? You know, a lot of people have so much fret and worry that sometimes I wonder if the universe will bless them, or even if they don't feel that way about how their procedure went or their chronic illness that they're going through, that I hope they are uplifted and that they are guided on their own journey and path towards health and healing,
Dude,
whatever that
like,
may look like, whether it's traditional medicine or other alternative therapies that may work better for the person. Like, there's this book that my friend gave me. It's called The Spirit Catches You When You Fall Down. And it talks about, oh gosh, hold on. I hope I say this word right. The Hmong culture. It's like this Asian culture that comes from like around Laos and Cambodia and stuff like that. And it talks about how this person, the patient in the book, how she had epilepsy or seizures, and it talks about how her culture embraced seizures as like someone who has very great spiritual powers, but then the Western medical field at the Merced Health Center in California, at the time during the 80s and 90s, said like, no, this is like a serious medical issue. Like, this person can get brain damage and could actually die. So the cultural differences that they have, and even in other cultures, in Latino culture, they have, I apologize if I mispronounce the word, but it's called a cudanero. It's like these spiritual healers that come in and they like do like special ceremonies and stuff like that for people who are like sick, and they're like traditional medicines and herbs, and it might be like hot and cold medicine or other things that they believe in that can help the person heal without Western medicine being involved. I mean, it doesn't always work, but some patients psychologically and sometimes physically feel better when they incorporate their own cultural medicine along with Western medicine. And I feel that sometimes Western medicine, even as I go um, to a medical university that tries to combine, you know, modern science with some of the other practices of the world and embrace other things and other methods that may not seem, how should I say, may not seem normal to most people, but I feel like people can embrace different philosophies, might give better health outcomes for certain patients who may want that.
I agree. I think that uh, Eastern medicine seems to be a lot more on the psychological part. Like, because Western medicine, I feel like,
But
at
there's
least,
now a convergence where there's now we're starting to see that though. And I
which is
think
good. That's
which
great.
is good. It's just taken a long time and we still have a long ways to go. There's more things, like if you think about traditional medicine where it's going, yes, it's good, but there's also huge flaws in the healthcare system that we still have a long ways to go to fix. And only time will tell if we can embrace the change to hopefully help um, our communities that need it the most.
Dude. I don't know. I'm just like blown away. Like, I feel like dude, you should have your own podcast. Like, I'm being serious. Like, it's like you say all this stuff, and I'm just like, that was like a whole podcast right there. Like,
I feel like
I
I need
totally
to
agree,
work on
though.
not being shy about it. I feel like it's just
You're
interesting to
kind of
talk
holding
to
back a little
people.
bit.
Yeah.
Dude, I know what you're talking about.
You know that feeling?
Yeah, well, like I could watch this podcast of us, and there's probably points where I'm more loose, and there's probably points where I'm more. Actually, this whole podcast I've been pretty loose, but just in general, like I look back at certain podcasts, I'm like, damn, like there'll be podcasts where I'm like fucking nervous, and then like I'm able to loosen up, but it's like this, like the energy's kind of sporadic. But I feel like right now you're getting pretty loose. This is like the how far are we in? Like an hour or something? So it seems like it takes you about 30, 45 minutes to warm up. Just,
Well, I'm like a slow cooker meal. I definitely take a while to warm up to people. And I remember as a kid, like people would always think like I was indifferent or I was stuck up. It's not really me being stuck up, it's more of me trying to learn to be observant of my surroundings. Sometimes I'm not as vigilant. I'm learning to try to be more of that as I get older, but I try to observe and absorb first before I say something. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm learning each and every day.
well, it seems like I guess you've gotten more comfortable with me. Is that what it is? You kind of vibe more of like who I am and like, or I don't know, because I could literally tell by the way you're sitting that you're more comfortable.
Yeah, my
Cause
feet
you
are up.
like, dude, I knew it. Like, I could tell like you're more on your side and like you're not just like directly in the middle of the camera, because like that's why like this whole podcast I've just been moving. Like if we were to literally like get the video and just like fast like put a
It would
super
be
flat.
really funny to see that.
Because literally, you know how many different positions I've gone in now? Like, look, I have the pillow. There's been times where I was literally way down here. There was times where I was like, kind of like this. There was a few times where I was like actually postured all the way up. Like, it's just, I have a lot of freaking energy in me. So I've noticed like that's kind of why I'm getting more like just not giving a fuck with the podcast. Like, I was outside sitting on the bench with Buddha. Cause I'm just somebody who like I'm so like physically energetic that like if I just like don't get me wrong, I've done podcasts where I literally just sit and like when you have good posture and like you work on your breathing, like I could stay sitting and have a whole podcast like that. But a lot of times I just like to move. So that's why I'm almost thinking like, I don't know, maybe at some point the podcast will be like a little, those mini microphones, like the lavaliers that go on your shirt.
Hmm.
Like maybe at one point I'll just have a camera and then me and the guest just have a lavalier and then so we don't even have to just like sit down, like we could stand up. Cause like that's why I'm doing this podcast with the mic in my hand instead of having it like on a stand.
Hmm.
Like it probably won't sound as good me doing like this, but like having it like this, I could literally like move wherever the hell I want.
That is true.
Right?
I
Like
think that would be beneficial. I'm kind of fidgety too. I squirm a lot in my classes, especially when we're like going on Zoom and stuff. Like sometimes I'll like adjust myself, and even though my camera will be off, I'll still pretend like I'm in the class, because you're kind of trained to like be in class, whether you're doing it virtual or like you've been in a classroom all your life. And so sometimes I'm like squirming and I'm like fidgeting or I'm like moving my foot or something just to like get more comfortable.
dude, I'm gonna have to buy equipment that makes me completely portable. That makes me and the guest completely portable. Because right now I do have lavalier mics and I have this like portable recorder. But
Make
let's
sure
say
they're waterproof. You never know if you decide to do like a funny podcast if you get like
in
super big
water,
and expensive. Like you do like a travel one or something. That'd be funny. You like do like a podcast where you're just like sitting in a pool of water or something.
dude, I'm already thinking about this. Because I'm like, dude, like let's say me and you had another podcast like in person. Like it'd be nice to have these mics just on us and we'd be able to like legit just move and like all we would have to do is just stay within the camera frame, right? Because I'm a super
That'd be an interesting idea.
that dude, because like my biggest thing that I'm working on is not being stale. Like I'm at work today and like I'm trying to pick this thing up, but I'm being too like tight about it. Like it needs to be a full body movement. Like I need to be relaxed. I need to be like water. I need to be like fluid. So like
Hmm.
that's why it's just like even like I said, like just being like me just staying put, like it's almost like it would make me super anxious because like I need to move. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. Maybe if I would have worked out more intensely earlier, and like if I was maybe more mentally rested, then maybe I'd be able to just like like just firm, just staying in put. But like right now, it's like I just kind of feel like moving. I don't know. I'm just bringing this up because it's just I'm literally building self awareness as we have this podcast. Well, Considering the 3 second pause that just happened right now, I'm guessing
Sorry.
Lawrence.
I was absorbing what you were saying.
No, no, you're
If I
good.
get quiet, sometimes I do that and then people are like, "Lauren, speak." Or like one of my sibling will tell me, he's like, you know, it's not nice or polite to just be quiet. Like, you need to say something instead of like being all defensive. And I'm like, I'm not being defensive. It's more of me just absorbing what you said, but other people will interpret it differently.
100%. 100%. I'm trying to be. I like to fuck around and just like act and just like pretend I do stupid shit. I can't think of somebody who just says 100% a lot. I guess everybody kind of says 100%. But I'm for real. Like I'm agreeing with you. Do you mind if I go to the bathroom real quick?
No, I don't mind.
All right, I'll be
Go.
right back. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm back.
I am back too.
Did you go to the bathroom too?
I couldn't hear what
I
you
said,
said.
did you go to the bathroom too?
No, I took a stretching break.
Oh, nice. What kind of stretch did you do?
The touch your toes. The most like
Uh,
basic one.
did that stretch your hamstrings?
Hmm.
That's good. That probably felt good, right?
Yeah, I feel like working on my feet like 12-hour shifts, I notice I need to like take better care of my feet so that way I can enjoy the journey of life. Because honestly, I feel like I'm getting like I need to like get give myself like pedicures more frequently now that I'm on my feet because I notice I need to like self massage and get into like the nervous system and like really like try to self massage it so I don't feel like chronic pain.
Your feet are the connection to the planet.
Oh, explain.
Well, what part of your body's constantly connected to the floor? I don't know. It's kind of
Well, it
like,
depends if you're a gymnast because they defy gravity. So if they did like a cartwheel or a handstand or something, then it would be their hands, you know?
yeah, and if I'm sitting on my butt, it's my butt. But normally you're on your feet.
Well, if you were paralyzed, then you'd be connected on your back, like if you're quadriplegic or something. I don't know, it's just perception, you know. Sorry,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
just
that's
being a dork.
true. I mean, I guess air particles are hitting every part of my body. So the universe is like all over me. It's not just my feet. Is that like my. I try to like avoid saying stuff like this, but like I guess that's like it's like my white girl voice. I don't know. What is it like? I think that's like quote unquote like stereotypical like white Californian girl.
Valley girl, is that what they
Is
call
that
it?
what it is? I
I
know
don't
there's a term for
remember.
it. See, it's just kind of weird though, cause like me as a person, like not on the podcast or not talking to anybody, like by myself, I'm very like it's always like a self improvement and just like I'm always like in a very like feeling and like at least nowadays like I'm in a very feeling and like spiritual mindset. But like if we're just gonna talk, like I'm a big like not take things serious because I don't really have like what am I trying to get at? Like I'm not someone to want to talk shit on other people, you know. And I've had times where I'm hanging out with people and like people like to talk shit, and that's how they spend their time, and that's how they bond, just talking shit about other people, judging other people. But I'm like, I don't really do that, especially now because I don't consume that much social media about other people's lives. It's like I don't even have like shit to talk, like if you know what I'm saying. So I'm not saying I'm a perfect angel, but like that's what I'm trying to get at is that like when I talk to somebody, like and I'm really cool with them, like it's really just like it's just let's just talk dumb. Like let's just be goofy. Let's act. Let's literally like first one to the let's race to the end of the freaking yard or like let's
Oh
act a
my gosh, you'd
scene.
probably beat me in that. I'm a slow runner, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, like I was literally at the park the other day with my friend and like we worked out and then like at one point I was like, yo, like just tell me to like act a scene and like I'm gonna do it. And then I'll do that. And then like I went on the monkey bars and I'm just pretending to be a monkey. Funny enough, you told me which monkey would I be. I was literally acting like a monkey with like hanging on the bars and doing crazy shit. Like that's literally like me having fun at the most maximal level. Is just literally just acting and pretending to be an animal. I know that sounds weird, but like literally just I don't know, just doing really like physically weird shit. Like I think that's why actors love to act because it's such a like you're learning this person, this idea, and then you're just immersing yourself in it.
Yeah,
There's
I
something
feel
cool
like
about that.
it's a very interesting job, and I feel like it can literally take people, from like Castaway, Tom Hanks. It's like it kind of consumes their whole being, sometimes their soul, and then when they reflect on like why they did the role or why they picked it, it's very fascinating to like to hear their interviews, right? I mean, you're already doing interviews anyway, but I think it's fascinating to just see things through a different light. And sometimes I feel like what I've learned through different people is that sometimes, in order for you to find your own light, that someone else can light the way for you by finding that spark or that idea to help you out.
You're saying having somebody else give you like positive affirmation about yourself could be the motivator to start having more faith in yourself?
Yes and no. I mean, you should already have that within yourself. You should already be confident within, That's why I said earlier you have to like know thyself. But I think it also definitely helps to not have positive affirmations of yourself. But I think most of us struggle to have positive affirmations of others. And I think that's why in the beginning you're like, are you judging me? And I jokingly said yes. But at the same time, like, we all can't be like bias free 100% of the time.
That's true.
But it's a different reality. If we thought about how we could suspend judgment, I feel like the world would be a healthier place. But not everyone thinks that way.
Yeah. Well, maybe once we have these chips in our brains, which is probably in the near future, we can go to the settings and put no judgment. And then we will extinguish judgment from our mind and we will live in a very objective world where we can love each other. Dude, that might actually be a possibility.
That might be. Who knows? I don't know.
Like within our lifetime, there, at least from my knowledge and from my research, I mean, they've already
Didn't they
they've already
put that
created.
implant like in a pig or something?
Yeah, you're talking about Neuralink, right, by Elon Musk?
Is that the one I'm referring to? Maybe,
Probably, yeah.
maybe.
I haven't seen the full video, but it's on YouTube at Neuralink.
I don't remember the name of it. I just remember it was like put in a pig. That's all I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. They're already putting it in animals, and I think by next year they will have put it into the first human. Like I don't know if it's the first human subject, but pretty soon, within the next couple of years, the first generation of this chip that goes into your brain and connects to your neurons will be out. And from my knowledge, from watching the podcast between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, like the first generation of this chip will really be more for people who have physical disabilities, people who are like paraplegic and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They'll be able to put these chips in their brain, literally, like literally inside they're gonna open the scalp and like put it in their brain and connect this chip to the neurons. It's gonna basically, because the reason someone's paraplegic is because of a connection that's been like pretty much cut off in the brain. Like one of the neurons, there's some of the neurons that are the millions. I don't know the technicalities, but this chip will basically reignite that connection. It'll reconnect that connection. And so that's the first few generations of this chip. It's not going to be giving humans like superpowers, but it's going to give humans back their capabilities. But the generation of this chip to follow, I mean, you never know where it's going to lead. It could lead to humans having like more capabilities than we've ever had. And I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds like people could say like he's playing God or something like that by creating these chips. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go about it. But for me, nothing's inherently bad or good, and I like to see the optimism in things. So I don't know. We'll see the way that this whole thing plays out, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's interesting. How do you feel about that? Chips going in people's brains.
It reminds me of iRobot.
You see it as more like right now, like as I say it, like quickly, intuitively. Do you see it more as invasive, and like do you see more negative out of chips in people's brains, or do you immediately think more of like positive?
I think I see both. I understand like how it could be a positive thing to actually change people's lives and to see if this could be like a cool therapy. I mean, never question the unknown because you never know if it could be something that can, benefit society. But then also at the same time are we losing ourselves to technology?
True, but just playing games here, not nothing serious. But maybe let's just say if we do continue to progress in artificial intelligence and these chips and all that, there's like I think there's like three different outcomes, or I forget the three. There's like two. Like either AI will become so like powerful that they will become like the superior race, and then they could wipe us out or enslave us or whatever, whatever, whatever. Or maybe they're just like super cool and we get along. Or we pretty much combine with artificial intelligence, which in a way it's already kind of happened with our phones because everybody has phones in their pockets, which the chip is just like the next thing. Um, but like, let's just say the hypothetical, which would obviously in a human perspective would be like the negative outcome. Let's just say that AI does get superior and they do like extinguish humans because they say, oh, well, like humans, they do drugs, and humans, they are ruining the environment, and humans do this and humans do that. Like, let's say they do completely wipe us out. Like, who's to say that that's not like why is that not okay, and why is it not like, oh, you know what, like maybe that's just the way this whole thing plays out, and like they're the new species, and then there'll be something after that, and then after that, and after that, and then maybe they'll come up with like a time machine, and then maybe you kind of get what I'm saying. It's like without an ego,
Like it's
like
like
completely.
the evolution of
Yeah, it's like
we just don't know. But like to play it out, like yeah, I mean we don't know. Like that's definitely food for thought in terms of like yeah, it could definitely benefit. I don't disagree with it, but at the same time I fully like don't agree with it either, because there's always going to be what we call the laggers, like the last person to like get like the latest iPhone or whatever. They might be like those stubborn people who are like, no, I don't want that.
I'm
I
not
want
putting no damn chip in my head.
yeah, there'll be those naysayers.
Just awkwardly just keep staring until you say something.
Is that one of your tactics when you interview people, because it's kind of like good and then kind of bad? Because you just want to, it's also healthy to have silence too. There's nothing wrong with it.
I agree. So yeah, I guess at that point, yeah, I'd have to. I think it takes a level of understanding of the guest. Like you're totally cool with just silence, and I could feel that. But maybe some other people are just like,
It's like ripping off a very painful band-aid. I don't mind noise either. Sometimes I struggle with noise, but I think I've learned to like just like it's part of life. You just have to go along with it.
yeah. I guess it's. I mean, if I were to just completely edit the podcast, but I guess
You
the
could. It would be
conscious
fun. How would that come out?
the conscious thought would be like, if you're listening to a podcast, would you enjoy it if there was a 10-second pause? I'd be like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of interesting. They had a 5-second pause. And you know what? If that's what I enjoy doing, if that's what you vibe on, then maybe we'll do that and we'll have fun with it. So here we go. 10 seconds of silence. Dude, you just breathed. We had some good silence going on, and then you had a freaking. Come on. I'm disappointed. Disappointed. I don't know if Lauren's going to qualify to be back on the podcast. She couldn't even keep 10 seconds of silence because she had to freaking breathe. And then now she's trying to hold it in. But it's obvious that I'm just way too hilarious. Just kidding. Oh, man. I feel like we've done like 3 podcasts in this one podcast. Like we've had like we're not taking it serious, but we're still doing a podcast. And then we probably briefly had like we're doing a podcast. And then now it's like I feel like we're just hanging out.
Are we? I don't know.
So
Are we doing
we've gone through the 3 phases. Not taking the podcast too serious, taking the podcast serious, and then now we're in the 3rd and final phase, which is we're hanging out.
I didn't even know that.
And if this is the art of human podcast and we're trying to get the most sincere, most honest expressions, we've reached it. We're in the 3rd stage now.
That's pretty cool. Are there any other levels?
There's only one more level, but it can't happen. Like that podcast would have to be in person. Maybe it would be that hit podcast I was talking about. Maybe that would be the 4th level. It's like a podcast where you physically exert yourself to the point where you really have to like talk straight from the mind and not have any thought process. Huh. Damn.
That'd be actually pretty interesting.
Would it?
I don't know. It's an idea that you pitch, so I have to think about that. Maybe I'll if I have time to like watch this whole podcast. I don't know how much time I'll have, but it'll be like pretty funny to like rewatch this, depending on how you edit it.
No, I'm not gonna edit it.
Good conversation.
The only part I'm gonna edit is the part where I went to the bathroom. Like I'm not just gonna leave like 2 minutes of just blank audio. That'd be kind of funny. Like talking about silence, just leave like a 2-minute Christian went to the bathroom.
You could put like a funny disclaimer alert. You would like, sorry guys, be right back, bathroom.
And then just let it run for 2 minutes. Like just put like background music.
Don't do that. I'm pretty sure some of your viewers might be upset with that, but it's totally up to you how you roll with it.
Well, the thing is, it'd be kind of funny, and on top of that, it's like, bro, you literally like if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, like I'm pretty sure there's a 30-second like skip forward. So you kind of know what I'm saying. Like it's literally a piece of content that you can fast forward through. So it'd be testing people's patience, and it'd be pretty funny if I just left 2 minute gap like that. I don't
They
know,
probably think it's the end of the podcast.
right? And then they just check out. That'd be pretty funny. I've actually done that. There's been quite a few podcasts where I or the guest go to the bathroom. But yeah, I've always edited out. Obviously, I just chop off the audio and then it's like as if we never went to the bathroom. But
Well,
that's
thank you
kind
for
of
having me on as your guest. It was a pleasure having this cool conversation. It's been kind of a wild ride, the different things we've talked about.
has. Um, do you want me to ask you one more question and then we end it?
Sure, it's up to you. It's your show, dude.
I know, but you're a part of the show right now, and you have feelings. How do you feel? Do you want to answer one more question and wrap it up?
That sounds good to me.
All right. Um. Hmm. I was gonna ask the question that I always ask, but I actually want to like make it more contextual to the moment right now, which today is November 8th, 2020 at 10:37 p.m. and I'm speaking to Lauren. How old are you, Lauren?
Oh my gosh, my age will be forever in YouTube. I am 27.
Okay, you're 27. 27 years old. All right, Lauren. Being 27 years old, or you've been 27 years on this planet. You've experienced a lot of things in your life, but you're 27, and I think that the demographics or the age of people who listen to this probably would average maybe around the age of 27, because I think there's most people are probably close to my age, but there's some older people. Maybe the average comes to around 27. And that being said, and most people coming from California or United States, what would be what would you like to say to people? Yeah, like if you literally had 30, 40 people in front of you and they were like people who live like similar, like, who live in California, or like people that you kind of get what I'm saying? Am I not
So
making sense?
let me rephrase your question. You're telling me what would you tell people in our age demographic group or people who live in our state of California? What advice would I give them? Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Like you being a 27-year-old Californian person, like what would be your message for the rest of the people? And of course, this could be, I'm sure people who aren't from California could still find some value in whatever you have to say, but what would be your message knowing your own life struggles and knowing maybe the things that you observe in your life? Like, what would be your message?
I feel my message would be to don't worry so much and to be happy and content where you're at in life, no matter if it's an uncomfortable situation, to find the goodness and light in the world and not to be absorbed in the darkness that succumbs the world, to see things as they are in the most realistic way possible, but also to not give up love, hope, and prosperity in your life. I feel like a lot of people need to cherish their health and happiness over materialistic things, but also to acknowledge the wealth of the beautiful land that we have and to take time to appreciate those who value you in mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much for being on the podcast. Thank you so much for just hanging out with me and talking with me. I appreciate it a lot. Um, and I really look forward to being able to, yeah, just continue to have conversations and hang out. So
Okay, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. What started as a a funny LinkedIn request, and I was like, who is this person? Turned out to be a cool collaboration. So I'm excited that I got to be a honorable guest, and I'm looking forward to seeing other people come on this podcast and hearing what they have to say too. I'm always learning and growing from different people, so I can't wait to see your content grow.
thank you, Lauren.
You're
All right,
welcome.
I'm gonna end this recording.